Hello, welcome to my channel. This wonderful story begins with the student in the library of the University of Chinese Medicine. The guy carefully walked between the shelves and studied books. He decided to take one of them. The student was very excited and concentrated. He carefully studied books. An unfamiliar couple appeared behind. It was wearing clothes with a hood. He was heading for the student. The student noticed a shadow behind. He realized that someone came to him quietly. The stranger said in a calm voice so that the guy would take the 10th book on the upper shelf on the left. The student was frightened by the voice of a stranger. He began to look for the desired book on the shelf. The student was surprised to notice that the desired book stood just in the place on which the stranger told him. The student turned and thanked the interlocutor for his help in finding a book. The student very carefully examined the stranger and was worried. The student noticed that his interlocutor was dressed in dense clothes with a hood. The student felt the talisman began to glow on his body. He was very scared. The stranger stood calmly and looked at the student. The guy began to disappear. As a result, the student completely disappeared, and instead only a book remained. The book fell down from a height. The student held out his hand in time and was able to catch her. The guy said goodbye to the disappeared student and said that everything would be in order with that. The stranger told the disappeared student that he would return here in 2,500 years. The teacher told students during the lesson that in the next lesson they will conduct a final exam. He added that the students pay special attention to the last topic called The Secrets of Pinhu's Pulse. One of the girls said that she did not have time to learn the topic. The man strictly reminded the students that most of them are already in the 4th year. He added that he will teach 4 components of the diagnostics of those students who will receive the highest score. The students thought. They were very interested in the teacher's offer. The teacher went to the exit. He told students that the lesson was completed for them. Students were surprised by him. It was not believed that the professor would be personally teaching someone personally, the guy thought. He knew that 4 diagnostic components were developed for a long time. One of the students said that the candidate should receive the highest score in order to begin to teach him the professor. The guy told his friends named Jing Fan and Sun Chi that they can read something. This will help them score a couple of points. The student was unhappy. He did not like the offer to read something. The student reminded the interlocutors that they arrived at them from the Institute of Western Medicine. The main character jumped up from his seat. He decided to leave with his friends. The guy invited other students to return to the bedrooms. They headed for the exit. The student with glasses was dissatisfied. He did not like that his friends did not take him seriously. The guy told his friend Sun Chi that the main character behaves strangely. Usually he does not like to return to the hostel. The student replied that their friend was repainted in gray. The guy looked at the protagonist and said that he looked matured. The protagonist was called the 4th year student. The guy was 2,500 years old. The guy fell into the deep antiquity of the world and was able to live to the present. After the rebirth, the jade suspension of the protagonist became a part of the technique for the participants. With the help of such a technique, you can absorb the spiritual energy of the sky and earth. After mastering this skill, the guy received an eternal life. From ancient times to this day, I was able to go a lot of roads and meet many people. The guy was always surrounded by war and discord. He was hiding where he could and avoided numerous contacts with people. For the protagonist, the books became best friends. The guy read a lot of canons, but did not find an answer how to go back. For the guy, everything has changed to date. He was accompanied by his friends. The next day, students had to take the exam. They had 90 minutes. The teacher told the students that their time had gone. Students began to write. The student with glasses energetically and carefully recorded test tasks. 2 students were sitting and missing. They were in no hurry to solve the examinations. Su Yi was completely concentrated. His attention was absorbed in the test task. The protagonist carefully filled the card with the results of the exam. A magical skill called a stream has another ability. The main character has the ability to collect images of anything in the spiritual palace. All the books that he have ever read also get there. The protagonist had his personal palace of memories. There were all his knowledge. The guy had all the accumulated knowledge in constant accessibility. The next day, the teacher at the university talked about the results of the exam. The man displeasedly told the students that they were in the worst group that he had ever had. He was unhappy that the students wrote everything so badly. The teacher said that there were good works. He said that the guy Logan was able to score 90 points. The student joyfully jumped to his feet. He decided that he showed the best result. Logan told rather other students that they could not compete with him. The guy decided that he had already received personal training with Lee Professor. The student asked the teacher, "When will they be able to start training?" The teacher looked at the documents. He answered the student that he was not the best result. The teacher told a surprised student to sit in place. The teacher asked the students in the audience, "Which of them is Sir?" The main character realized that the teacher turned to him. He sat next to his friends. Logan was amazed. He could not believe that the main character could score 100 points. The teacher showed the examination tickets and said that the student received 100 points. The students were amazed. They could not believe that one of them was able to completely learn the secrets of Pinhu's impulses. The guy joyfully shouted to all those present that they underestimated them. Several sat silently. He saw in his mind as if something moved in space. The student was very happy. He was pleased and proud that his friend wrote the exam best. He was silent. He did not show any emotions after the teacher's words. The teacher told the student to come to his reception center. He promised to personally train. The teacher informed the guy that he would teach him 4 diagnostic components. Friends were sitting in the student room. One of them offered to go today and relax. The protagonist asked where they will go today and really in Soyizhuang. A friend slyly looked at his interlocutors and said that he had a better idea. The guy looked at his friends with a smile and asked if they knew what was in his hands. He held tickets. The delighted student realized that his friend was holding an invitation ticket to celebrate the centenary of the Music Conservatory Mancine. The protagonist said thoughtfully that it seemed to him that Xiao Yujuan was actually better. Friends joyfully began to shout to the main character that Minson was full of beauties at the conservatory. One of them even said that they could meet Sisters Baich. The guy looked at his watch. He shouted excitedly to his friends that they did not have much time. Near the music conservatory, Manson was full of guests. The building was decorated. Near the entrance to the construction, there were a lot of beautiful girls, and they joyfully spoke among themselves. The main character came with his friends. The guys in surprise examined everything around. Students were very happy because they saw beautiful girls. The guy looked aside. He saw something very interesting. Su A turned his head to the side. Nearby stood his friend and told the students to look. The main character saw 2 running girls. The student shouted that they saw the first beauties of the Manson. The guy told his friends that they see the Sister Baich in front of them now. Students stood excited and wanted to approach the girls opposite. The guy said that the sisters are very beautiful. The main character looked carefully at the sisters. They seemed special to him. Su realized that the girls were surrounded by a pure aura. Previously, they could become strong warriors, but now the bike is ordinary people. The main character felt something unpleasant from the side. He turned there. Su noticed a stranger standing nearby. He realized that he absorbs the aura around him. The main character took a closer look. He realized that he did not expect to see this at one time. He realized that he sees a living warrior aura. Su knew that the aura warriors are masters who collect the energy of the sky and the earth. Ancient times are considered golden time for masters. Then the earth and the sky were crowded with aura. Therefore, before there were many strong warriors and commanders. Due to industrialization, a natural aura was freed. This led to the decline of the aura warriors. As a result, they can't be found now. The protagonist looked at the walking stranger with great attention. He looked very suspicious. The aura warrior carefully followed the girls. He gradually approached them. The guy held out his hand to grab the bag that the girl carried with him. The robber ran very sharply to the side along with a stolen handbag. Sue was surprised. He could not believe that the warrior of the aura could be an ordinary thief. The girls rushed for the robber. One of the sisters demanded on the go to the guy to return the bag. The girl ran with all her might. She told her sister on the go to call the detective. The sister looked at her interlocutor and told her confidently that she would cope. The girl indicated her surprised sister to do everything as she tells her. The sister showed the girl to take care of herself. The girl answered the interlocutor so that she would not worry. Sister called the detective van. She told the policeman that she needed help right now. The policeman said that reinforcements were already leaving. The protagonist carefully followed his sister. The main character realized that everything becomes very interesting. He knew that the Detachment K is a division of Aura warriors. The girl ran towards the building. She decided that she had to first meet the detective and detachment. The girl ran into the building. She noticed how her sister was lying unconscious on the floor. Baikich asked a frightened voice from an unconscious sister, "Is everything she is fine?" The attacker at that time was hiding around the corner. 24. The girl ran to her sister with all her might. The guy jumped out of the corner and swung his hand. The attacker ran up and hit the girl with all his might with his fist. She fell. The girl did not have time to protect herself from a powerful blow. The guy stayed nearby. The attacker looked at his victim and said in a calm voice that the girl and her sister were just ordinary people. The guy said an unconscious sister so that she would not poke her nose where she should not. The guy with an evil smile told the girl that he would now spread the detachment to. The main character appeared in the window. He told the attacker that he wastefully uses power for petty theft. The attacker turned displeasedly. He could not understand who dared to bother him. Sue looked at the interlocutor and said that he was not good enough to be called the Aura Warrior. The guy thought displeasedly to himself that he did not even feel how the main character appeared next to him. The attacker angrily looked at Sue and said that he was advising him to blame it as soon as possible. Sue answered the interlocutor that he heard from him only the usual words of a low-grade villain. The criminal got angry. He swung his hand to demolish the protagonist. The attacker shouted to his opponent that he would die now. He prepared to hit him. The guy, after a powerful blow, hit the ground with his fist. Stones scattered around. After a blow, dust rose into the ground. The attacker looked around with great attention. The guy looked in front of him and was surprised to notice how a large hole appeared at the scene of the blow. The attacker twisted his head in all directions. He could not understand where the main character went. Sue was on the side. He slyly asked the attacker whom he lost. The attacker, angry, in the attack to demolish the protagonist. Sue calmly looked at the guy running at him. He prepared to fight back. The protagonist deviated to the side with a very clever and quick movement. Sue, with a sharp movement, raised his hand up. He prepared to attack the guy flight time. The main character, with a powerful blow to the guy, knocked the guy during the flight. The stranger flew aside after the attack. The main character decided to attack him further. Sue swing with both hands. He decided once again to hit the attacker with all his might. The protagonist jumped with all his might and hit the attacker in his stomach with both hands. The stranger, after the next attack from the protagonist, flew to the side. The attacker fell to the ground. He no longer had the strength to attack further. The stranger came to his senses. He looked at the protagonist and asked where he came from. Sue calmly looked at the attacker and said that he was an ordinary guy and he does not like to watch the girls beat. The attacker decided that he sees a new fighter from the detachment of K. The guy realized that he had no other choice. He decided to use the last chance. The guy handed the main character the device. He said that he was created in the family of a Baich with the support of China. The attacker added that the girl called the police and he needs to run away. The attacker prepared to run away. The main character shouted to the guy to wait. Sue Ellerly looked at the attacker and said that he wants to talk to him. The protagonist hit the attacker with all his might. He fell to the ground. At this time, girls were sitting near the wall. The sister began to recover. She slowly opened one eye. Sue looked from the roof of the building down and noticed how the police specialist arrived. The main character looked closely and noticed that the stranger gave him ordinary VR glasses. Sue carefully looked at the glasses and decided that they would suit him for games. The man spoke on the phone with the governor. He said that using students Manson as a bait turned out to be a bad idea. After the conversation, the man was unhappy. He was still holding the phone in his hand. Suddenly, a girl came up behind the man. She called him Uncle Van. The girl told the interlocutor that this was her decision with her sister. She explained that they did not want the fruits of grandfather's work to fall into the wrong hands. Van explained to his sister that he came here to help her. The girl thanked him. Bache looked excitedly to the side. She wanted to say something important. The girl informed the man that the detachment could not pick up VR glasses. She added that she saw the person who took them. Baika informed that the glasses were taken with her, who had previously arrived on the holiday. The main character arrived in the room in the hostel. He decided to inspect virtual glasses. Sue decided that VR glasses were made by order. They are intended for aura warriors. There should be some kind of secret behind glasses. Two students entered the room. One of them asked the protagonist, how could he leave them themselves? The students were very amazed when they saw new glasses at the protagonist. One of the students shouted that he sees exclusive VR glasses for fantasy in front of him. A friend in surprise went to the main character. He said that he did not suspect that he secretly plays games from everyone. The main character answered his friends that he decided to just try to play. Sue told the surprised students that he does not understand what could be interesting in games. The guy said that 2 years ago, a large-scale VR game was developed. The game was warmly accepted by players. She gave a feeling of complete immersion and convenience of management. Inside the game is a huge open world with a high degree of freedom. The student joyfully said that the game of fantasy is beautiful. Sue invited his friends to discuss the game later. On Monday, he plans a lesson from Professor Lee. Friends told the main character that Professor Lee asked him to go to his clinic tomorrow. Students informed the guy that the professor wants to teach him 4 practices of medicine. The girl was at home. She decided to go to the bathroom and take a shower. The sister stood inside the shower cabin under the streams of water. She decided to wash. The girl, after the shower, wrapped herself with a white towel and prepared to go out. The sister came in and told the girl that she had forgotten the tigerka in the bathroom. The interlocutor was very happy that her little toy was found. The girl thanked her sister. She decided to help her apply her back. The interlocutor replied that she had almost healed the wound on her back. Beichi looked at a huge bruise on the girl's back. She prepared to apply the ointment. The girl began to rub the ointment on the back of the girlfriend in place of the bruise. Sister screamed in pain. The girl said in a dissatisfied voice that Beichi was pretending to be. The girl smiled and said that if Western medicine does not help them, then they can try Chinese. The sister was surprised. She asked the interlocutor, is she really offering to try Chinese medicine? The sisters together came to the appointment to Dr. Lee's medical clinic. The doctor asked the patients, what are their problems? Nearby stood the protagonist in a white coat. The girls introduced themselves. One of them was the name of Jiran, and the name of the other was Ijan. Sue was very worried when he saw the sisters. He did not understand what they could forget in this place. The main character scaredly decided that it would be very bad if the sisters recognize him. The guy told the teacher that his grandfather returned and his mother was calling him for dinner. The man answered the interlocutor that his grandfather was here only yesterday. The man strictly demanded from the guy to show him what he learned in a month. The sisters sat at the benches near the table. The teacher looked strictly at the guy and said that there were no excuses on the path of medicine. Jiran looked at the guy with great suspicion. She stared at him silently. The main character realized that he had no other choice. He began to put on a mask. The doctor told the patients that next to him was his student named Sue. The guy in a calm voice asked the girls, "What bothers them?" The sisters hesitated. They did not know what to tell the interlocutor in response. Duran said that a bicycle hit her a month ago. She used the Western ointment, but it did not help her. Izhan emotionally said that a month ago she fought in the forest with a big bear. The predator swung at her and she flew off. The main character thought to himself that his patient had a strange sense of humor. The doctor carefully looked at the girl's hand. He studied her pulse. The man asked the protagonist, what could he say? Sue said that the girl has blood blocked. Massage and purification need to be done. Jaren said that her younger sister just wanted to miss classes. She came to the doctor and pretended to get a certificate. The doctor told the main character to make a massage to the patient. Izhan shouted displeasedly that she was protesting. She did not like massage from a man. The patient went behind the curtain. The protagonist could not understand that he could really take care of the sex of the doctor. Izhan shouted to the guy that she would tear him out if he would do something with his sister. The main character thought to himself that he was more concerned about the patient Duran. The guy noticed that the girl was watching him very carefully. She seems to see him through. The patient undressed. She told the guy that her sister added problems for him. The girl said that her sister is very worried about her. Izhan recommended this clinic to her, as I read a lot of good reviews on the internet. The main character said calmly to the girl that he would definitely help her. Sue, with excitement, looked at the girl. He told her that he would cure her. The main character thought excitedly to himself that his heart even trembled. Jaran was suspicious. She decided that she had already seen a SU doctor somewhere. The patient lay on the couch. The main character told the girl that if she hurts or unpleasant, then she told him. The main character looked at the girl's back and noticed a strong bruise there. Sue held his hand near the girl's body. He felt a powerful aura. The main character realized that he was feeling the aura of a guy who attacked the girls. Sue realized that the bruise on the girl's body did not pass for a long time, since the aura of the attacker accumulated in one place. The main character knew that the injuries that were caused by the aura should also be treated with an aura. Jaran shouted loudly and displeasedly that she was hot. The main character realized that his method is valid. Sue realized that the patient should feel the heat. A chaotic aura has accumulated in one place. The main character laid his hand on the girl's back. He decided to dissolve the aura. Sue held his hand on the girl's back. A blue glow appeared around. The patient felt that her body is very trembling, as if she was about to fly. The girl felt that she was very pleased. Jaran felt that she was as if with wings. The main character told the girl that she could try to get up and move. The patient was surprised. She asked at Sue, "Is it really all with her treatment?" The patient told the main character that she had a completely pain. The guy explained to the girl that she needed to rest and not get wet. Jaran excitedly thought to herself that she remembered where she saw the guy. The girl looked at the back of Sue. She realized that he was very similar to the guy she had seen before. The patient looked at Dr. Sue with great suspicion and turned to him. The girl asked the protagonist if they had met somewhere earlier. The patient left the office. She thanked the doctor. Her joyful sister ran up to the girl. Izhan asked with the excitement of her sister, "Did her doctor reglay?" Jaran replied that she was fine. Her back passed. The younger sister showed the doctor the tongue. The girl told the guy that she confused him with another person. Sue replied that he had a rather standard appearance. The patient said goodbye to the doctor near the entrance. The guy told the sisters to be more accurate on the road. The guy was very happy about himself because Jaran did not recognize him. The main character noticed something suspicious, as if white lightning flew from the side. The guy looked closely and realized that the girls were being watched again. He decided to step aside. The main character noticed how lightning sent him to a stranger in an alley. Sue asked the attacker, "Is he really following the girls again?" The guy was unhappy due to the fact that he met the protagonist. This time, he decided to act differently. The attacker said menacingly to his rival that he would use a special technique against him. The guy's body shook. Pieces of clothes began to fly from him, and he became stronger. Very quickly, the attacker has become very large and pumped up. The main character, with fright and excitement, noticed that a huge monster was very sharply in front of him. Verzila shouted angrily the main character that he would not stop him from putting on glasses. The guy with all his might hit his hand on the green garbage box. He flew to the side. The main character looked scaredly as a huge box flew at full speed. Sue barely managed to return to the side. The box crashed into the wall at full speed. The main character was sitting on the rope. He asked the opponent to have fun. Was his teacher really taught such a technique? Sue looked displeased at the attacker and said that he really had become stronger. The main character wanted to tell the opponent something important. He said that the guy would live for 2 minutes. The fighter shouted to the guy that he would use the technique of the league mentor against him. The guy jumped up. He shouted to the main character that he could not dodge constantly. Sue thought to himself that he hears the usual villainous dialogue. The main character said that he was very bored. The stranger called the guy a blunt bastard. The fighter landed on the ground. The protagonist at this time abruptly jumped to the side. The guy accelerated very quickly and shouted so that Sue would take a fight as soon as possible. The main character grabbed his hand by the rope. He decided to tie an opponent. Sue asked the fighter, "Why doesn't no one help him?" The guy shouted that the mentor allowed him to act alone. The main character wrapped his opponent with a rope. He told the attacker that he was being deceived. Sue shouted to his opponent that he would have kicked him out after the failure of the mission if he were his teacher. The main character began to tighten the rope. He prepared to finish off the opponent. Very quickly, the fighter was completely connected. He could not even move. The main character silently looked at the tied guy. He knew that he had no time to live long. Sue told a bound opponent that he was afraid of punishment for failure. Now the fighter wanted to catch up. The guy stuck and tore the ropes. He shouted to the main character that he would tear his tongue out. The main character fell to the ground. The guy swung to finish him off. Sue became in the combat rack. He shouted to his opponent that he could risk attacking him. The fighter got angry. He swung widely with his fist to finish off the guy. Sue, with excitement, looked at his opponent. He decided to reach out to him. The main character pointed a finger at the guy. The fighter at this time struck his hand forward. Sue told the opponent that he could try to attack him if he could. The protagonist viciously explained to the stranger that his time had passed. The fighter felt very severe damage in the body in different places. The guy began to cower from side to side. His body began to decrease. The main character watched with great interest how the fighter began to decrease in size and swing. As a result, the guy could not resist his feet and fell exhausted to the ground. The stranger asked the protagonist with an exhausted voice to finish him off. The main character slowly held out his hand to his opponent and grabbed him. Sue held the stranger by the throat. He decided that he wanted to exhaust him first in order to ultimately use and make him part of his strength. The main character carefully examined the lying opponent. He asked the guy how he has been practicing this technique for a long time. The interlocutor replied that he was practicing a month with breaks. The main character demanded that the guy extend his tongue. Sue wanted to look at the fighter's hand. The stranger said displeased that he was a man, not a dog. The main character turned the guy's back and grabbed his hands. He said that he would unravel the aura for him. The fighter did not understand why it helps him. Sue laid his hands on the guy's back. He explained that his inflated aura began to destroy the body. The fighter was surprised due to the fact that his teacher never told him about problems with the aura. Sue asked the interlocutor how special VR points to risk their life. The guy turned angrily and said that he would never betray his teacher. The main character laid the guy on the ground and began to rub the spine on him with his fist. The guy said that now there was little aura. It is impossible to find spiritual herbs. Therefore, many refuse self-improvement. The protagonist pressed the guy on his back and demanded that he answer closer to business. The interlocutor said that the teacher suddenly appeared. He said that for the aura warriors there is still a new world where they can live. In such a place, an inexhaustible supply of herbs and nephritis is available. Su-yi laid his hands on the guy's back. To himself, he thought that the soldiers of the aura are a powerful organization. The stranger told the main character that the new world hides the technique of eternal reincarnation. The main character asked the interlocutor, "What does all this have to do with BPOchka?" The guy replied that glasses were completely useless. The fighter explained that the key to the new world is in the game fantasy. The only way to find this key is special VR glasses. The main character told the guy to get up and checked if he had something in his body. The fighter said joyfully that he did not hurt at all. The main character told the interlocutor that he had awakened new qualities. Sue demanded from the fighter to stop pursuing the sisters and leave. The guy suggested that the main character work together. He said that they could defeat many aura warriors together. Sue refused. The main character explained to the fighter that he perfectly understands that he wants to lure him to his teacher. Su-yi explained to the interlocutor that he was alive only because he still did not harm anyone. The main character grabbed the guy by the clothes. He wanted to threaten him. Su sternly told the guy that at the last moment he would see only a flash of aura. The interlocutor, with a smile, told the main character that he was very beautiful. Su-a in the evening sat in his room in a dormitory. He received a message. The main character read the message. He realized that while he was working, his friends went to play. Su thought to himself that he should study in order to benefit the world in the future. He does not have time for games. The main character, after a long pause, put on virtual reality glasses. He prepared to enter the game. The game started. The system said that the character's identification and generation has been completed. The main character after that was inside the virtual game of fantasy. Su saw an absolutely unrealistic computer world around him. The guy was surprised and amazed. He could not believe that this was a fantasy game. Su-yi stood inside the virtual world. He had a huge combat sword on his back. Suddenly, some predator appeared in the throat and looked at the man with a luminous look. A wild predator with burning eyes stood and looked very viciously at a man. The main character did not know that behind him there was a wild boar. The guy said that the smell of grass and branches seems real to him. The boar accelerated and rushed with a wild roar with all his might on the attack on man. The predator rushed to a person at full speed. The main character at that time was surprised due to the fact that the game has not yet teleported to the village of Novichkov. Su-yi grabbed his hand by the sword. He noticed a predator in time and prepared to fight back. The main character very quickly and with a sharp movement of the sword struck the running predator. The boar was mortally amazed at the blow of the sword. His lifeless body remained on earth. Su sternly told the deceased predator that he was very noisy and therefore he noticed him. Suddenly, the main character heard some suspicious noise on the side. Around the guy stood a huge herd of very evil predators. Su told himself that he was wrong. Su-a calmly glanced at the predators. He prepared to fight against them. The main character with his sword was able to successfully kill all wild boars. A participant in the game noticed a magic monkey with a banana in front of him. The girl went to the monkey and with all her might struck her with her weapons. The animal was mortal wound. The indicator of the life of the monkey was completely reset. After a successful hunt, the girl ran away in the direction of the forest. The monkey fell to the ground. Jiran held her battle bow in her hands. She completed her combat mission. Izhan told his sister that the case of glasses was completely transferred to the detective van. Jiran replied that the detective said earlier that he would send in search of all subordinates. The little sister was unhappy. She did not understand. Was it really so important to send all employees? The girl ran. She told her sister that she needed to focus on monsters. Izhan waved her small axe and told her sister that she was very strong. Izhan asked her sister with great excitement, "What happened?" The girl noticed a huge number of bodies of killed wild boars in front of her. The sister asked the interlocutor why there are so many corpses of wild boars. Was there really some kind of event? Jiran thoughtfully replied that she did not think so. The girl examined the bodies of wild boars. She realized that the predators were killed by one blow. The girl ran to the side with her sister along the game location. The system told the participants that all players with the 10th level can participate in the game event. Izhan told her sister that she also wants to participate, but she has only the 9th level. The girl answered her sister that she might get another time. The participant explained that she would first try good luck on the event, and then he will be shared with her sister. Jiran thought was excited to herself that she could find a player who killed Kabanov. Inside the abandoned temple were the bodies of the dead soldiers. The guy scaredly examined the bodies of the dead fighters. They were lying everywhere around the building. The player was very scared. The sword trembled in his hands. He could not understand what kind of game it was. Suddenly, the guy saw a huge warrior in front of him. He was scared. A huge warrior hit the guy on top of the sword. He did not have time to defend himself. The player's life indicator after the blow rolled completely to 0. The warrior stood and watched as the opponent's image on the floor disappeared in front of him. The girl hid around the corner. She scaredly thought to herself that she wanted to find a killer of wild boars in this place, but she does not understand what was happening now. Jiran thought to herself that in this place there is a very slow regeneration. She even had to heal the scratch for a long time. The girl activated the farsightedness. She specifically looked at the warrior to see the level of his damage. Jiran examined the figure of an unfamiliar warrior. She wanted to study him in detail. The system told the girl that she was denied access. She noticed that the stranger reached the 35th level in the game. She now realized why the restoration is going so slowly. The girl looked closely and noticed that the player in the cloak unexpectedly disappeared. Suddenly, Jiran saw how a fighter unexpectedly teleported and appeared in front of her. Jiran decided to sharply bounce back. She realized that the stranger found her. The girl was frightened by her hands. She shouted to the warrior so that he would not approach her. Suddenly, someone else appeared on the side of the girl and waved his sword. Su-A. He stood with a sword in front of him. He explained to the girl that he had been looking for this place for a very long time due to the fact that the card was large. The main character to fight off the stranger. The girl shouted to a friend that the rival level is 20 units higher than their. Su asked his girlfriend, "How strong is their opponent?" The girl dodged the blow and shouted to the guy that she hoped for his help. Su-A accelerated with his sword. The main character wanted to disperse the stranger with his sword. The knight did not have time to hook the guy with his sword. Su-E jumped it from above. The protagonist cheerfully shouted to the opponent that he had a sword with his sword just like his acquaintance. Su told himself that his opponent uses the same technique as his acquaintance. The main character jumped from above and with all his might cut the opponent with a sword. Su told himself that usually the opponent does not like to hide his face. He finished off his opponent with a powerful blow. The warrior health indicator decreased to 0. The stranger was finally killed. The main character maliciously told the opponent that the guts were ripped off, and no one found out about him except relatives. The main character raised his sword. He decided to hit his opponent again. Su-E, with a very large scale, hit his opponent's bouse in the body. The main character swung and once again cut his opponent with his sword. Su looked at the defeated warrior and said that he was a bad imitator. The system told the player that he won the event. He received the 30th level in fantasy. Jiran was very amazed. She realized that the guy defeated the event boss and greatly raised his level. The system told the main character that he receives a rewarding award. The main character decided to open and check what he received in the form of a random gift. Sue decided to try to open his reward. He received the sword of the dragon fighter. The main character looked at the system window and studied carefully. He could not understand what he received. The guy saw a parchment with a pattern in front of him. He realized that he was seeing a drawing of Korin. Sue was convinced that he was what the guy told him before. The main character, with excitement, realized that inside the fantasy, there is definitely a new world. Near the police office, the subordinate reported information to his boss. The employee told the manager that the personnel of the special group is in positions. Wang, without turning around, he said that it would be difficult for them to all. The guy asked the boss with excitement, could there be a kidnapper in a collusion with a detachment K? Van seriously looked at the interlocutor and said that the time had come to destroy this gang. The main character ordered food from a street seller. He asked for more severity and acid. The man asked the guy if he really got a girl over the past 6 months. Sue answered the seller that he was not up to it. Suddenly, the main character was worried. He heard a suspicious smell around. Sue could not understand where the jade could come from in the city, with a lack of aura. The man was surprised to notice how the main character turned around and prepared to leave. The seller shouted displeasedly after the guy that he could not even wait for food. Sue, on the move, answered the man to give food to someone. The main character ran down the street. He walked in the direction of the jade smell. Sue stood near the entrance to the public toilet. He decided to go there inside. The main character saw a greenish stone with surprise. He realized that this is a spiritual jade. Sue knew that spiritual nephritis was formed by absorption of the spiritual aura of baptism for a long period of time. The stone helps the soldiers of the aura to strengthen in themselves. He is very rare. The main character held a stone in his hand. He decided that he would help him become closer to his goal. Sue realized that there is someone next to him. He shouted to the stranger to go out. Van left the toilet cabin. He told the guy that no one could stand before the jade temptation. The policeman told the interlocutor that he underestimated him. The man asked the guy if he stole the glasses at the Minson Conservatory. The policeman told the chief hero that all this would not go away to him. Several fighters appeared to attack Sue. The strangers accelerated and ran towards the main character, Sue. He looked as a careful and sharp look aside. He prepared to fight back. The fighters almost ran to the goal. The guy decided to teleport. Sue turned out to be behind the attackers. He calmly told them that they bother him. The attackers fell to the floor. The protagonist turned to a man. The protagonist asked a man, "Fun, why is he standing aside?" Sue asked the policeman, "Is he really so weak as his subordinates?" Van strictly asked the guy, "Where is his leader and glasses located?" The policeman swung and rushed to the attack. He told the chief hero that he was not even 30 years old. The protagonist put up the defense in front of himself. After the attack of Van, fragments scattered around. The man was very surprised. He could not understand how the guy could resist him so well. Sue held the hand of the policeman. He specified what leader he was talking about. The main character pulled the opponent's hand on himself. He reminded the policeman about his manner to ask questions. Van was scared. He realized that now the guy would throw him on the ground on a scale. The main character threw a very powerful blow to the policeman on the floor. The main character activated the magical skill. He prepared to finish off the opponent with his fingers. The man was very scared. He realized that he behaved very carelessly. Sue on the body of a man, several powerful blows to his various points on the body. Van opened his eyes in dismay. He realized that the protagonist discovered acupuncture points on his body. The main character explained to the policeman that he had been scored by Ren's veins. Therefore, the aura did not flow at that. Sue told a lying policeman that after the opening of acupuncture points, he would go to a new level. Van could not understand why the guy helps him. He still thought that the main character works in the detachment of K. The policeman carefully examined the guy and remembered that he had not seen a dossier on him. Van decided to try to make the main character an ally. The policeman told the guy that he did not belong to the detachment of K. He demanded that the protagonist go to the detective bureau. Sue calmly asked the man what would happen if he refuses his offer. The main character was silent. The policeman looked at him angrily in response. The man told the guy that he would make him go with him. If it is suffering, then this will be his personal file. Van swung his hand. He prepared to immediately attack the opponent. The guy carefully looked at the policeman. He noticed that the man of his aura became stronger. Sue absolutely calmly stood and watched the opponent attack him. He realized that the man had become better. The main character deftly dodged the attack. He swung and with all his might and hit his opponent with his hands. Van, after the strongest blow, flew to the side and flew through the door to the booth. The policeman sat unconsciously on the toilet. The protagonist noticed that inside the man, the aura flows smoothly. It is released in a natural way. Sue decided to himself that his treatment worked as it should. The main character threw the stone in front of him. He decided to himself that he would take jade as payment. Sue left the building and stood on the street. He was thinking over the stone received. The guy was surprised due to the fact that the policeman used the jade as a bait for the kidnapper. The guy decided to himself that glasses are just a cover. Real tips are in the game. The protagonist remembered the parchment with the pattern that fell earlier in the game. Sue recalled that before the guy also mentioned that the game has information about the new world. The main character decided that people have the same goal as him. Sue realized that the rest want to get information about the technique of eternal reincarnation. The man came to his senses. He could not understand how he lost consciousness and why everything went awry. One of the subordinates told the detective Van that the government forbade him to use. The policeman replied to his subordinates that the aura was first used by the kidnapper. Van knew that his strength increased 3 to 4 times, but this was not enough for him. He could not understand who his rival was. Inside the game of imagination in the grape cave, the guy met his teacher. The guy told his teacher that he could not find Mayodzi for several days. The woman answered the interlocutor so that he would not be worried. Her people have already established the whereabouts of the right person. The subordinate asked in dismay of the interlocutor, what will he receive punishment? The woman told the guy that he belongs to her family and she could not punish him. The student thanked the teacher. The student turned and headed aside. The woman silently looked after him. The teacher said in a cunning voice that animal tests have already begun. The woman turned to someone next to her. She said that after they catch the Maotzi, so that tests began on it. The teacher asked the man, was it over torture? The warrior held a young guy behind the head. He told the woman that he did everything as she told him. The teacher asked the victim, how are things going? The guy whispered to the teacher an apology. The woman swung very sharply with her hand and finished off the guy with a powerful blow. The teacher said that the young warrior was useless meat. The man asked the interlocutor, how can they go further now? The teacher calmly explained to the interlocutor that they should leave everything as it is. The woman told the man that they should get a parchment that fell out of the event. An important hint is hidden in it. The main character looked at his friends. The guys in VR glasses were completely absorbed in the game process. Sue realized that each participant in the game accumulates the aura with the help of respiratory equipment. The main character activated Jade. He decided to use the opportunity to improve his high run. The stone lit up. Sue decided to switch to a new level using the nephritis found. The main character felt important changes within himself. He decided to move on to the most important part. Sue felt as if he was in a huge library, and yellow lightning went down on top of him. The main character opened the box in the table. In it lay parchment and green stone. Sue thought. He could not understand where the pattern of Karin came from at all in the game. The protagonist was surprised to notice how the pattern on parchment was brightly lit up. Sue was surprised to look in front of him. He could not understand what was happening. The main character saw a huge virtual map of the terrain in front of him. The system said that fantasy is a forest secret kingdom. The guy could not understand where the part of the card could come from in his palace. He did not remember him to see the card in the game. The main character decided to himself that someone was spying on him and decided to transfer him to some place on the map. Sue picked up a stone. He decided to follow the desires of the pursuer. It was supposed to help something to find out. The guy seemed inside the game of fantasy. He was in the northern forest. Sue recalled a message that said that the secret kingdom can be found using a hidden map. The main character sharply cut down a tree with a sword. Two frightened warriors hid nearby. In another place, the main character cut down half the stone. There were two players from below. The protagonist told all the spies surrounding him to go out. The guy asked the boss what to do after they were discovered. The boss replied that everything was fine. The boss told his subordinates that there is one guy in front of them, and they could just kill him. The main character shouted to the rivals to attack. He activated the skill of fiery elements. A flame appeared around. Sue swung a sword and shouted to his rivals to attack. To himself, he thought it was really dangerous. A bright flame was blazing and raging around. It burned everything around. The main character stood and looked at the fire in front of him. He decided that all his rivals died. A boss with a huge club appeared. He said, displeased, that he should always do everything himself. The boss demanded from the protagonist to give him a parchment. Sue was surprised that his opponent also hunted parchment. The main character told the opponent that he was not in the mood today. He directed his sword at him. Sue cut the boss with a sword. He said that it is very inhumane to use people as bombs. The protagonist steeled and looked at the body of a lying opponent. He decided that there is someone else nearby. Sue looked to the side of the forest thicket. He called his invisible opponent. The main character shouted to the opponent to go down to him. The woman was unhappy, thought to herself that it turned out to be very difficult to cope with the main character. The girl noticed as if someone called her. She was unhappy and did not know what they wanted from her. The teacher noticed how someone called her from an unknown number. A woman from a tree shouted to a struck warrior so that he would not be launched. Around the body of a murdered warrior, fiery languages appeared. They flashed brightly. Sue with great excitement, turned to the side. He noticed in front of him that the warrior began to recover. The main character saw a huge fiery fighter in front of him. He decided that this was a new skill. The burning fighter held out his hand to attack the guy. Sue prepared to defend himself. The main character grabbed the sword in order to finish off his opponent with his help. Sue swung a sword. He chopped off the head of a burning fighter with a deft movement. The main character waved his sword several times in the air. Around, there were flames. Sue saw how the burning parts of the destroyed fighter flew in the air in front of him. The main character realized that he had just fought with a very convincing fake. Sue decided that his enemies distracted him in order to escape at this time. The protagonist could not understand who put the arrow into him to help him. The guy read the message from Jaran Baich. The girl wrote to him that she should no longer. The girl stood in the distance with a bow in her hand. She looked in the direction of the protagonist. Jaran lowered the bow. She told herself that this should be enough. The girl thought about herself. She could not understand why she cares about the guy. Jaran examined the protagonist from afar with great attention. The girl thought to herself that ordinary players should not know about the importance of parchment. Jaran noted to herself that a group of attackers of the fighters was well organized. She decided that the guy attacked the detachment K. The girl was delighted to decide to tell me everything to Detective Van. Jaran opened the system window. She decided to contact her commander. The girl told the commander that the guy had just attacked a group of players. The commander answered the girl that they were already following Sue. The leader told the interlocutor that they already have another important reason. The man told the girl that they found a man who stole glasses. The leader told the girl that they were starting to act. He reminded her of security. Jiran was delighted. To herself, she realized that her efforts were not in vain. On the territory of an abandoned warehouse, the subordinate talked with his boss. The guy, irritated, threw glasses to the floor. He asked displeasedly, "What kind of bastard was it?" The girl told the subordinate to forget about the guy, since they have a new order. The boss told the guy that customers would pass them to detectives if they did not find new information. The guy was very unhappy. He asked what they want from them this time. The leader answered cunningly to the subordinate that now it would be an information of a higher level. The subordinate asked the boss if he was talking about national espionage. At this time, a guy with documents entered the room. The guest, very scared, asked about national espionage. The fighter began to go in the direction of the guy. He scaredly replied that he said everything by accident. The guest told the interlocutor that the task of the detective bureau is completed. The woman greatly grabbed the guy with his hand by the face and forced her to open her mouth. The boss held a red ball in her hands. She wanted to feed his boyfriend. The woman sternly told the interlocutor that the most obedient is a dead child. The boss forced the guy to swallow the poisonous red ball. Inside, the guy began poisoning. The woman with all her might held her hand at his mouth. The main character read a message from the girl on the phone. She wrote to him that she owed him nothing more. The guy was surprised. He decided that Bache is a really special girl. The protagonist remembered that the bruise on the body of a girlfriend was serious. When he treated her, she did not make a single sound. A stranger approached the guy from behind. He said that he remained in place. The policeman showed the certificate and told the guy that he was detained in the theft case. The protagonist thought displeasedly to himself that the detective team still found him. The officer on the go told the guy to continue to follow him. The main character was surprised to note to himself that they were heading to the school dining room. The policeman went to the wall. He told the guy to follow him. The policeman pressed the invisible button in the wall. Sue was surprised that there is a secret base in this building. The main character went down to the basement, accompanied by his companion. The policeman told the guy that they had arrived. They approached the huge metal doors. The main character decided to himself that the police should have important information taking into account all precautions. Sue entered the next room and saw a huge number of painted girls. The guy was surprised. He could not understand why the figures and the images of girls in the police department. Sue was surprised to look around. He decided that he sees the modern room of geeks. The protagonist noticed the police chief at the table. He said in a cheerful voice that Sue is a kidnapper of glasses. Van Hao told the main character that he was the main detective and offered to talk. The guy tried to justify himself. He said that he knows nothing about glasses. The man answered the interlocutor so that he did not even try to deny. Van Hao went to the door and pressed the button. He told the main character that he would show him something interesting. The main character noticed how young guys trained in the hall. He decided that this was a training ground. Sue, in surprise, saw how his neighbors in a student dormanship trained in the hall. Van explained to the guests that they find the talents they need in the game of fantasies. All this is done thanks to VR points. The main character recalled the behavior of his friends. He said that he was not sure how exactly all this works. Sue said that he saw his neighbors in the room perform breathing techniques in the game. The practice of respiratory equipment allowed the guys to strengthen their aura. They received the strength inaccessible to them before. The main character asked a surprised man, "Is he right in his words?" Van remembered the word of the girl Jiran Baich that the main character is an amazing person. Aloud, he invited the guy to the next stage. The man handed the guy the phone. The main character decided to take him and talk. Sue is worried. He picked up the phone and did not know who his interlocutor would be. An unfamiliar voice told the main character that he had been following him for a long time. Sue realized what a little girl was saying with him. The interlocutor asked the guy for help. Sue asked what he would get in return. The girl told the main character that she would show him where the secret kingdom. In return, she asked the guy to help catch the detachment. Su, without long thoughts, told the interlocutor that he agreed to her conditions. At an abandoned warehouse, the guys beat a fighter. One of them said that the captive will need to be held later on the teacher. The fighters continued to beat the guy. He could not defend himself from them. One of the fighters swung before the blow. He said that they will teach the prisoner and then give him to. The main character appeared. He looked with great surprise at the beaten guy. Su looked at the fighters and told them cunningly that they had finally met. The prisoner looked at the protagonist with surprise. He decided that his brother came to help him. The main character with powerful blows scattered around the fighters. He asked a friend who was it. The guy scaredly said that the teacher was sent against him. He added that you need to find Zhao now. The main character was surprised. The guy ran up the stairs and shouted that he would definitely find Zhao. Su-yi was surprised. He did not understand what he was doing and who his friend was looking for so much. The guy went to the door. He shouted to Xiao Wu that he would go now. The guy opened the door and went. He saw something very terrible and froze in place. A young guy was sitting on the floor. He was pale and did not show signs of life. A friend ran to the unconscious guy of Xiu and scaredly asked what was done with that. The main character looked at the guy's body. He realized that he was first pumped up by aura and medicines. Then they completely sucked the energy from the victim. Su realized that in the death of the guy, the people from the detachment K. The guy looked at Xiao with a frightened look and asked what to do. He remembered the pills. The young man took out a box with a teacher's tablets. He prepared to accept them. The guy opened a box with pills. He began to pour them into his hand. The main character looked at his friend displeasedly. He realized that idiot. Su, with a sharp movement, grabbed his friend by the hand. He did not want him to take pills now. Su said very emotionally to the guy that he will now explain to him who is to blame for everything. The main character added that the teacher is to blame for everything. Su-yi explained the persistently frightened friend that the teacher used it. The pills that the guys received turned out to be poison. Therefore, Xiaowu died. The main character explained to the interlocutor that they are all the experimental rats of their teacher. The guy was scared. He dropped the box with pills and fell to his knees. The young man was very amazed. He could not believe that the teacher counted him along with other guys just rats. The protagonist thought in surprise and displeased to herself that the guys behaved like children. Su examined the pale body carefully and realized that there was almost no spiritual energy in the guy, but he was still alive. The main character explained to a friend that Xiao can still be saved. The guy was surprised that his brother could still be saved. Su smiled the interlocutor and explained to him that he was studying Chinese medicine. The main character began to conduct special magical manipulations. A virtual library with a large number of books arose around Su. The main character activated the search among all his accumulated knowledge. The guy needed a dragon's bones, a bone marrow flower, and a grass of hope. The main character served his hands together. He decided to try to create a pill. Su-a, with surprise, noticed how a red round tablet soared in front of him. The guy held out his hand to take a pill and understand who the main character is and why he is so good in medicine. Su gave a friend a pill. The guy put a red pill in his mouth to an unconscious Xiaowu. Life began to play in the guy's body. A glow appeared around him. The skin acquired a yellowish tint. Xiao came to his senses. He asked his brother, what did he do here? The guy rushed to his revived brother. He hugged him very joyfully. The main character explained to his friend that his brother was still very weak. He needs to rest. Su asked strictly with the interlocutor, what is happening in the detachment K and where is their teacher? The guy dutifully answered the interlocutor that he would tell him everything. He wanted to tell where the teacher is. Suddenly the front doors opened and a policeman appeared. He told the guys that surveillance of them paid off. The main character was surprised. He could not understand what Van Hao did here. The policeman demanded that the guy give him information about the detachment K. In return, he promised to provide medical services for his brother. A police and medical vehicles drove up to the building. Doctors carried Xiao on a stretcher. The main character shouted to the departing guy to wait. Su told the interlocutor that he would no longer do nonsense for his brother. The guy sadly answered the main character that he would remember his words. The main character thought to himself that with the help of a guy he found an abandoned base and a member of the Detachment K. Su asked the policeman how seriously he belongs to the Detachment K. Van answered the guy that the detachment participants were conducting experiments on people. The policeman said that among other reasons for interest in the detachment, there is also immortality. Van told the guy that the promised awards have already been sent home. The main character realized that the detective did not want to give him a lot of information. The guy decided that he himself had to go to the secret kingdom and find out everything himself. Su-yi moves inside the game. He found himself in an abandoned game location. The main character went into the cave. He decided that he was in the right place. The main character realized that the entrance to the secret kingdom is inside the cave. It was not so easy to find. Su-yi went inside the cave and found a huge pattern of Kaurin in one of the premises. The guy received a system message. He carefully analyzed him. The main character received a new transformation. He had to tame some beast nearby. A huge predator with burning eyes appeared on the side. Su realized that he would have to fight back. Su-a held out his hand to grab his sword. He looked carefully at the wolf. A long-tailed wolf approached the person. He prepared to attack the guy. The predator accelerated and ran towards the guy at all speed. Su-a, with all his strength, swung a sword. The predator sharply bounced to the side. After an attack from a man, the wolf fell to the ground and remained motionless. The main character was surprised to notice that the predator's health indicator did not decrease. Su-yi, with excitement, looked aside. He did not know how to tame the animal. The wolf stood and looked at the man with an evil look. He prepared to attack again. Su in all directions waved a sword. He decided to try to finish off the predator as soon as possible. The protagonist struck the concrete floor with powerful blows and fell into the lower room. Su-a stood and looked at the predator in front of him. He prepared to fight back. The wolf stood still and growled very viciously. He studied a person with great attention. The predator grabbed his head with both paws. He looked in the direction of the protagonist. The main character was surprised. He could not understand what kind of sound he heard next to him. Su-yi thought and excitedly realized that the wolf was controlled from the outside. The wolf jumped up sharply. The main character prepared to fight off the predator. He stood still and prepared to fight off with a sword. The predator at great speed flew around him. The guy with great excitement realized that the wolf around him was moving very quickly. The main character swung a blade to hit a predator flying over him. Su-yi, on the head of the wolf, some luminous bright hieroglyph. The main character realized that he had noticed a rune already familiar to him on the head of the wolf. The predator stood nearby and looked angrily at the man. Su not noticed how demonic green clouds flew from the wolf in his direction. The guy realized that he was attacking a mask on the head of the wolf. He needed to find a way to destroy it. The main character, with all his might, hit the ground with a sword. He decided to attack the predator. Su-yi was very sharply dugging. He decided to finish off the wolf as soon as possible. The protagonist extended his hand in order to quickly grab a dangerous predator. Su, with a very powerful, dexterous movement, grabbed the mask on the head of the wolf. The protagonist tore off the mask from the predator. He said that it is very bad to control others. Traces of blood appeared from under a torn mask. The wolf had a wound on his head. Su-yi bounced to the side. In his hands was a mask from the head of a predator. The main character, with all his might, squeezed the mask with his hand to destroy it. From severe pressure, the mask in the guy's hand scattered into pieces. The wolf was completely freed from other people's control. The predator shouted loudly. He could no longer move to the sides and did not see anything. The wolf fell to the ground. He had no more strength to attack a person. After some time, the predator came to his senses and rose to his feet. Su-yi looked carefully at the transformed beast. The wolf seemed very beautiful to him. The guy put his hand on the predator's head and he liked how the wolf really looked. The system told the owner that he tamed the long, hungry wolf. Su ordered the predator to lie on the ground. The main character decided to stroke the animal. He held out his hands to him. Su-A walked around the wolf and stroked it very joyfully. He felt great. The guy noticed how something happened to the wolf. A glow appeared around his body. The main character looked excitedly in front of him. He did not understand what was happening. Su saw how a little girl with blonde hair appeared in front of him instead of a predator. The wolf, after stroking the guy, turned into a harmless child. Su-yi, with great excitement, looked at the girl in front of him. He did not understand what happened. The main character was scared due to the fact that he saw a little girl next to him. Su realized that if someone had seen him here, then very soon the police would have taken him. The main character decided to take off his outerwear. He realized that he could not leave the girl in this form. Su-yi put on his outerwear, surprised by the baby. He decided that it would be better. The girl was silent. She looked thoughtfully down the ground in front of her. The baby ran to the side. The main character asked her with excitement, "Where is she going?" The girl ran to the wall and looked at her silently. A surprised guy stood nearby. The baby put her hand to the wall. A bright glow appeared around. The main character was surprised to notice how a huge, luminous pattern appeared on the wall. Su realized that the inscription on the wall says about the kingdom of the people of the ARC. It is located in the North Azan. This nation has a white body and hair. The main character realized that the girl is the divine beast of the ARC people. Su-yi looked at magical inscriptions. He realized that there is some kind of connection between the Harain and the people of the Ark. The main character sat on the ground next to the little girl. He decided that only the people of the ARC can give him the right answers. The guy realized that Detective Van would not tell him anything. He also decided that he could not get any necessary information from Maotsa. The main character realized that the developers of the game or the Baich family could help him. Su realized that he could not just meet a noble Baika family. The main character opened the system window. He decided to write a fantasy to the girl inside the game. Two girls at this time rushed by car along the road. They talked among themselves. Jiran told her interlocutor named Jiang Shan that he should not accompany her with her dense schedule. The girl was sitting on the chair opposite. She answered her interlocutor that she was very kind. Jiang said that the girl almost died when she tried to take a detachment K to clean water. She added that 2 jade are worth nothing. Jiang Shan was the senior inspector of the eastern region. The inspector told the interlocutor that she could give her a bunch of jade. Jiran answered the interlocutor that she did not need a stone, and she had not yet become a master of aura. Jiang asked for great interest. Does Baich really want to become a warrior of aura? The inspector sat closer to the girl. She really wanted to help her. Jiang grabbed a girlfriend into her arms. She said that she would help her practice to achieve faster results. The inspector continued to clamp the girl in the back seat. Jiang explained that she appreciates both sisters. Suddenly, there was a very strong explosion. The car took the side. Due to the powerful explosion on the road from the car, part of the body was torn off. A guy with a weapon came up from the side. He was heading for a burnt car. The stranger carefully examined the charred transport. He decided to see who remained alive inside. The guy grabbed the handle of the side door in the car to open it. The fighter opened the door and shouted so that the girl Baika would quickly go out. The guy was surprised to notice how it was empty inside the burned car. Zhang stood nearby. She shouted loudly to the guy what he was looking for in a wrong place. The inspector carried a girl in her arms. She shouted to the attacker that today she was with a button accordion. The guy was very unhappy. He decided to grab the girl Jiran himself. The attacker accelerated and demanded that Jiang give him a sister. One of the fighters was completely connected with blue lightning and could not move. Jiang smiled cheerfully at the attacker and said that they surrendered to the detective. The stranger viciously headed towards the girl. He told her that he did not know who she was. The fighter shouted very viciously so that Jiang did not go into his own business. He prepared to attack. Jaren called her girlfriend Jiang Shan with a very frightened voice. The inspector looked slyly at the attacker. She prepared to defend herself from him. The fighter rushed to the girl at full speed. She attacked his body with the help of blue lightning. The guy realized that he could not move forward further. His body seemed to be constrained. Blue lightning stuck out of the fighter's body. They completely chopped him. Beichi was very surprised. She realized that the inspector struck the opponent with the help of one movement. The inspector, with a smile, demanded a guy to answer her questions. She asked why he needed Yerenbaich. The guy realized that he was now constrained by spiritual weaving. He could not understand where the girl came from. The attacker was angry that he would not surrender to a living inspector. He prepared to swallow the blue pill. At this time, a blue thread flew. She pulled out a stone from the guy's mouth. After the flight, the pill returned to the hand to the inspector. She held her in her hand. Jing asked the guy, did he really want to use pills to increase weapons? The attacker viciously shouted to the surprised inspector that she was very stupid. The guy explained that the weaving of the soul can only connect the aura. For this reason, he simply will not use it. The attacker swung. He shouted to the girl that he would deal with her with a simple blow. The inspector looked cheerfully in front of him. She was amused by the guy's words. The girl swung and with all her might hit her foot attacker in the groin. The guy shouted after the blow. He felt a very severe pain in the body. The attacker fell to the ground. After that, Yaran Baiki approached him on the side. Jaran said with surprise that such a technique is acting even on the aura warriors. The inspector looked cheerfully at the guy and said that he had screwed up. The police arrived. They twisted and took the attacked guy into the car. Jaran said I was unhappy that the detachment has already been working openly. She asked her friend, were the attackers looking for a passage? Zhang asked the girl, what kind of passage did she talk about? The inspector decided that Baichu would have ever learned about everything. She decided to tell everything now. Zhang said that fantasy is a projection of another world. It is called the world of mountains and seas. There are many spiritual resources in this place. A couple of years ago, the Spiritual and Research Department took the initiative to himself. The players specially selected in fantasies were sent to the expedition. The inspector said that they need new forces to protect their borders. Recently, they have been suffering from pressure from other countries. Jiang asked the girl if she would follow her. Jiran was silent in response. The inspector reported with a smile that she still needs to deal with the mess. Baika joyfully shouted to her friend that she was sings with her. She ran to the car. Jiran decided to herself that if she became as strong as Jiang Shan, then she will never be a burden again. The girl got into the car to her girlfriend. She asked Jiang, did she really forget something? The girl received a message inside the game. Someone wanted to meet her to practice shooting. Su Yi was inside the game. He was waiting for the girl and could not understand where she was. Inside the mansion, a girl was a girl. The house was under reliable security. The fighters in costumes near the entrance to the building carefully looked around. Jiran was in the bathroom. She decided to relax in warm water herself. The girl realized that the main character decided that she was an unreliable person. She did not know how she would look into the eyes of Su Yi in the future. Jiran heard a sharp noise on the side. She turned around in fright to see what happened. The sister came out of the shower. She wrapped her body with a white towel. Jiran went to the door and opened it very slowly. She felt fear. The girl went out and saw that a pot of flowers had fallen in the bedroom on the floor. The door to the balcony was open. Su looked closely and decided that the pot had fallen due to gusts of wind. Suddenly, the girl heard a suspicious noise behind. She was scared. The main character grabbed the girl from behind. He clasped his mouth with her hand so that she would not scream. Jiran sharply freed her head and managed to bite the guy by the finger with all his might. The girl escaped from the protagonist. The guy was afraid of surprise. Bache looked displeased at the guy and asked who he was. The girl realized that she sees Dr. Sue in front of her. The main character told the interlocutor that they had not seen each other for a long time. The girl asked the guy very displeasedly why he came to her. Sue did not know what to answer. The main character understood that he could not tell the girl that he came due to the fact that she missed the meeting in the game. Jaren threatened the guy that if he doesn't say anything, she would call the police. The main character shouted to the interlocutor to wait a minute. Baika held the phone in her hands. The guy explained to the girl that he wants to tell her something. The guy with a neat movement took the phone from the girl's hands. He told her that he wants to tell her about one secret. The main character told the girl that her father secretly contacted Lee's teacher. He wants to discuss the treatment of a dangerous disease. The girl was scared due to the fact that her father was sick. Sue-E explained to the interlocutor that his father secretly sought treatment so as not to disturb her. The girl said that she understands why her father has been looking bad lately. Sue went to his sister and hung his jacket on her shoulders. He told her that he was worried about her father. Jiran explained to the interlocutor that she believes him and she trusts Professor Lee. The protagonist thanked the girl for the fact that she believes him. To himself, the guy thought that he urgently needed information about Kaorin. Sue told his girlfriend that he was lost in her mansion. Jiran asked the guy if he wants to find her father's room. The girl took the guy into the room. She said that this is her father's room. Jiran, with a very clever movement with the help of a finger, slammed the entrance lock. The main character was worried. He widened with excitement and looked at the girl. The girl shone with a bright light from the lamp on her guest. Sue did not understand what the girl was doing. Jiran stood and held the lamp in her hands. She sternly told the guy that she recognized him by his jacket. The girl shouted to the main character that she saw him how he abducted his glasses. The girl decided to hit the guy with a lamp blow. Sue dodged the blow. He told himself that he knew that everything would not go smoothly. The main character, with a quick and dexterous movement, grabbed a lamp and defended himself from a blow. Sue sharply pulled a lamp towards himself. The girl was still afraid for her. The protagonist managed to grab the girl on the move so that she would not fall to the floor. Jiran slipped on a towel that lay on the floor. The guy held her. The main character demanded from the girl to pay him a moment of attention. He explained that he took glasses, but he appeared on the side of detectives. Sue-E released the girl out of his hands. He advised her to dress warmer so as not to catch a cold. Suddenly, Ijhan appeared on the side. She shouted to the guy to stay away from her sister. The girl accelerated from the street and decided to jump out the window into the room. Suddenly, the fabric exploded and the bike began to fall into the room with acceleration. The girl screamed scaredly. The protagonist could not understand where Ijhan came from here. Ijhan fell from overclocking from above onto the protagonist and a girl next to him. Sue-E hardly came to his senses. On top of it lay two sisters of a buttonhole. The guy was lying on the floor and he had no strength to rise. The sisters were next to him. The girls looked displeased at the protagonist. They did not like that the guy was in their room. The sisters swung and decided to beat the guy. They shouted displeasedly that a pervert. The girls beat the main character and tied him. He did not have time to defend himself. As a result, the bound and beaten SU was suspended from above. He could not move. One of the girls swung a large paw and hit the tied guy. Ijhan shouted to the main character that he was a bad person. She continued to beat him. Jiran handed the phone to her sister and said she looked. The girl was very surprised when she watched the information on the phone. Beichu told the sister that the detective would not lie to them. One of the girls told the frightened guy that she tested his story. Ijhan, with a stick in his hand, told the main character that they misunderstood him. Sue, in a calm voice, answered the interlocutors that they came to understand. The sister calmly told the hanging guy that she would untie him now. Ijan stopped. She invited her sister to call the guards. Jiran said excitedly to the interlocutor that they themselves were to blame. Izhan shouted displeasedly to her girlfriend that even if the main character helps the detective, then he is still alien. The girl told her sister that she did not involve her in many affairs and did not introduce her to many people. She added that she was worried about her sister. Izan answered the sister that after all the incidents today was attacked by a detachment K. The girl told her sister that they are very far from each other. She was just watching from afar for Jiran. The girl hugged her sister. She said that she was very afraid that she would never see her again. Jiran hugged the girl. She thought to herself that she was a bad sister. The main character looked at Jiran. He realized why he did not wait for her. Sue said surprise sisters that they have a very good relationship. The main character was freed himself and stood on the floor on his feet in front of the girls. Sue said surprise girlfriends that he would not load them with the upbringing of the ropes. The girl ran up and grabbed a stick with a paw. She wanted to beat the guy again. Izhan swung and shouted to the main character that he is really dangerous. Jiran was worried and frightened. She shouted to her sister to stop it. The protagonist with a quick movement dodged a stick down from a blow. The girl missed. Sue bowed and asked his girlfriend. The main character calmly explained to the surprised girls that he had broken home to them because he did not meet Jiran in the game. Izan pointed a finger at the guy and said that he, it turns out, could feel guilty. The girl asked the guy how did he find out that she would be online. Suze reminded the interlocutor that they agreed on the meeting. The sister asked, did they really agree on the meeting? Izan in surprise pointed to the guy with her hand and asked, was he CUE? Izhan pointed her hand to the guy and said that she did not believe that he is Sui. The guy answered the girls that they could check his ID number. Jiran seriously said that she believes that the guy is Sui. The sister reminded the girl that the main character broke home at night. The girl told the main character that she would not put the charges against him. She also set one condition. Jiran demanded from the protagonist to help her with her sister in training. Izhan told the sister that all this is very risky. She reminded of other methods. The girl told her sister that they have time, but their mom and dad have no time. Izhan agreed with her girlfriend and said what they would do as she wanted. The main character with excitement realized that the girl wants his help because of her parents. Sue held out his hand to the girl and said that he agreed to her offer. The main character promised the interlocutors that he would do everything possible to help them. Sue, along with friends, came to the dance hall. They decided to train there. The guy was sitting with the girls in the yoga position. The girl asked the guy if there were any results. The protagonist explained to the sisters that they had an aura blocked. It will take a little time to open their acupuncture points. The girl explained to the main character that this is not their fault, but all because of their genetics. The protagonist suggested sisters to use double cultivation. This will help revive the stagnant aura. Izhan, with excitement, told her sister that she read about double cultivation in one magazine. The girls imagined how they would sit next to the main character in an embrace. Sue decided to himself that his girlfriends did not understand everything. The main character laid his hand on the floor. Summer inscriptions appeared around. He told the girls that they incorrectly imagined double cultivation. The sisters were amazed and surprised. They looked at the inscriptions on the floor with admiration. The main character, along with the sisters, sat in a huge luminous circle on the floor. The main character explained to the girls that they were sitting in a circle to collect aura. When he clicks on an acupuncture point, other points around it will light up. Jiran said with surprise that she thought that the ancient circle of aura was long lost. 2 green stones flew between the guy's hands. He told the girls that these jade should give a lot of aura. He explained that the process of opening points will be complicated. The main character sharply chopped his hands. He shouted to the girls what to start. The protagonist warned his girlfriends that it would hurt and that they would hold. The sisters screamed. The guy thought excitedly to himself that the absorption of the aura became stronger than he expected. He could only use his aura. Suddenly there was a very bright glow. Sue shouted that he began to pour energy. A very bright glow appeared on top. It went to the girl on the floor. Particles of yellow energy in the air over people flew in the room. The main character realized that his girlfriends now have the 9th rank. For them, it will be the maximum so far. Sue looked at the lying girls. He decided to go and see their father's office. The main character turned around and decided to see the state of the sister. The sister lay unconscious on the floor. They were very exhausted after the procedure. The main character found a secret entrance to the office. He went inside the room. The guy sat down at the table at the computer. On the floor, several mannequins were lying in front of him. The main character analyzed the information on the computer and found what he needed. He pressed the button on the panel. The light of the hologram appeared on the side from the panel. The main character took a closer look. Sue saw a holographic image. He realized that the fantasy game is a link with another world called the World of Mountains and Seas. The main character was surprised due to the fact that he could exist simultaneously in both worlds. He decided to find where the passage to another world is located. Sue carefully studied the information in the computer. He realized that there is not a word about the data he needed. The guy carefully looked at the computer and noticed the logo of the detective agency. The main character recalled that Boss Van Howe's name is Zhang Shan. This girl should know the place of the passage. Sue thought and decided to himself that he would have to meet with a senior inspector. The next morning, the sun shone in the room to the girls. They woke up. Jiran opened her eyes. She realized that they were in the bedroom. She remembered that they were in the dance hall when Dr. Sue suffered them. The sister sat on the bed and noticed how a note on the blanket was lying in front of her. The girl realized that the guy painted a circle for the collection of aura for her. The main character wished the sisters to succeed. The guy added that the girls did not rush fate. Jiran was delighted. She excitedly pressed the letter to her. She thought about the guy. The sister clearly remembered the name of the protagonist. Sue at this time walked along the street. Sue met two students. One of them asked the protagonist, "Did he really get up?" The main character was worried. The student told a friend that he saw that the main character on his bed was curled up and slept like a dead. Sue remembered that last night he was not in his room. He thought about who could sleep in his place. The main character sharply ran to the side. He shouted to his friends that he had forgotten something in the room and would come to them later. Sue at full speed ran into the hostel. He was heading to his room. The protagonist rose on a ladder to his sleeping place. He did not know who was in his bed. The guy grabbed the blanket. He could not understand who decided to sleep in his place. The protagonist tore off the blanket and saw a stranger on his bed. A girl with long white hair curled up on the bed. Sue scaredly said that he sees a long, hungry wolf in front of him. The girl opened her eyes. She calmly looked at the guy in front of him. The amazed main character looked at the little girl on his bed. The baby screamed joyfully and rushed from above from the bed to the guy. From surprise, the main character fell to the floor. The girl jumped on him. Sue gradually came to his senses. It was a little girl with long white hair. The main character asked the baby how could she get here. He first decided that she was NPC. Sue with a fright. He heard his friends approach the doors of his room. He was very worried. Students stood near the entrance. The main character could not understand why his friends returned. The guy took out the phone and looked for a while. He remembered that today is Sunday. The main character with fright wore a girl around the room. He wanted to hide her somewhere. The baby ran towards the door. The main character shouted to the girl so that she would not go there. Friends opened the door to the room. They shouted to the main character that they brought him breakfast. Friends looked up at the bed and noticed that someone was lying under the blanket. One of the students decided that their friend was bad. The main character decided to escape with the girl. He moved to parallel reality. Su-yi was in his virtual palace. A frightened baby sat in his arms. The main character explained the surprised girl that they are inside his memory palace. Su told the girl that they are inside his personal world. He asked the interlocutor to tell him how she got into this world. The baby was scared. She was silent and did not know what to answer the person. The girl began to make various sounds scared and wave her hands in all directions. The main character realized that the girl is a spiritual beast. She does not know the human language. Su-A took out a book from the shelf. He decided to teach the interlocutor to speak human language. The main character held a book in his hands. He told the interlocutor that he would teach her language. The girl nodded silently to the guy. Su-yi began to teach his girlfriend human speech. At first, he told her about the alphabet. The girl held a book in her hands. She dutifully repeated all the letters that she learned. The main character explained to the girl that she was a wolf, not a fox. The baby slowly said the word about revenge. Su asked the girl, did she want to take revenge on someone who put on her mask? Has the baby screamed excitedly? What does she want? The main character decided to himself that the girl would help him to get into the world of mountains and seas. Then he will not need to turn to Zhongshan for help. Su-yi showed a red pill surprised by the girl. He asked her to sign a contract with him. In return, he will help her in revenge. The main character promised the baby that he provides her with an aura in another world. He asked the girl to take him to her home. Su-yi explained to the interlocutor that he set her the only condition: you will not have to pay any more. The aura of the guy and the girls will unite. The baby noticed something very frightening in front of her. She looked scared in front of her. The girl brought up. The main character was sitting on the floor in a meditative pose. The girl was surprised. She saw that her friend was very young and did not understand where he got such a force. The baby looked at the guy in surprise. She noticed something interesting. The girl saw that the protagonist had a green stone. She did not understand where he got such a suspension. The baby went down from above towards the guy. She decided that for her it was fate. The girl came close to the main character. The guy was surprised. The baby told the guy that the contract was concluded and called him the master. Su-yi was very amazed. The interlocutor several times called him her immortal master. The main character scaredly asked the girl how did she find out that he was immortal. The baby explained to the guy that she herself is immortal. She felt the same smell from the owner. Su suggested the girl to rest in the palace of memory from past injuries. The main character added that he needs to finish things in this world. After that, he went to the world of mountains and seas. The girl ran to the owner and grabbed his hand. She wanted to tell him something important. The baby informed the surprised main character that in addition to him, she feels another immortal. The guy called the girl the name Sengguan. He scaredly asked if she knew for sure who is another immortal. The girl explained to the guy that another immortal person is very hidden and strong. Chenhuang dissolved in the air. In parting, she told the guy to be careful. The protagonist, along with a map in his hand, gently made his way inside the detective bureau. Su realized that the card from the girl did not fail him. For him, everything went along the clock. At this time, Cheng Huan appeared behind. She called the guy. Su-yi was surprised at surprise. The main character squeezed the girl's mouth. He said they could be caught. Chen Huang screamed excitedly that if her owner is caught, then she will help save him. The guy asked his girlfriend to be silent. Suddenly a bell rang and a red bulb blinked. Su was very worried. The protagonist thought displeasedly to himself that they were spotted inside the headquarters. Chen Wang said excitedly to the main character that all this happened to her because of them. The girl noticed how the two warriors of the aura fought among themselves in front. Jiang attacked her rival with blue rays. She shouted to the girl so that she would not think to enter the world of mountains and seas. The girl attacked in response to the inspector with a bunch of energy. She shouted that Zhang would not stop her. Two bundles of energy collided in the center of the hall. There was a very strong explosion. The main character looked at the girl with surprise. He could not believe that she was a boss over Van Hao. The guy saw a blue portal on the side. He realized that Chain Huan had taken from there. The girl explained to her owner that he sees in front of him the entrance to the world of mountains and seas. Chen Huang invited the guy to hurry into the portal while the girls fought among themselves. The girls continued to fight among themselves in the room. The main character stood in the next room with the girl. Su said excitedly that Jiang had reached the 9th rank. The rival also does not lag behind her. Now there are not many young aura warriors in the world. Chen Wan joyfully told the owner that she wants to break through. The main character told the girl to return home. He assured her that everything would be fine with him. From a very strong blow, Jiang Shan was taken far aside. She hit the wall. The main character neatly looked into the room. He was wondering who was the rival Jiang Shan. The rival came up with fire in her hand and asked the inspector, "Everything is fine with that?" Suddenly, something pierced the girl's hand. Blue lightning seemed to stick into it. Jiang shouted angrily to her opponent that she had enough strength to give her a battle. The inspector told the leader of the detachment that she would not allow her to transmit information about the world of mountains and seas. Inspector Jiang called her amazed rival with the name of Lo Chuan. The girl decided that there would be enough of her. She took out a small test tube. Lo Yuan activated the fluid from the test tube to her body. She did not want to leave her rival alive. After the injection, the girl's body began to transform. It increased sharply in size. Zhang scaredly noticed how the rival held out a huge hand against her. The inspector, with the help of blue threads from his hands, repelled the opponent's attack. Zhang thought to herself excitedly that her rival was now close to the 10th rank. Lok Yuan came close to the inspector and asked why she froze in place. The inspector with fright noticed how the rival extended her huge hand to her. The main character ran in time. He grabbed Lok Yuan sharply from the side of the hand. Su told the girl that he was familiar with the smell of her drug. The same smell had the medicine of Xiao and Maozi. The inspector asked the protagonist displeasedly, "How did he find this place?" Su Yi seriously looked in front of him. He decided to attack Lo Ziyuan himself in front of him. The main character hit the girl with all his might. She flew to the side. The guy said that the old man was very boring. Therefore, he wants to ask the teacher. The girl bounced to the side. She could not understand what happened to her. La Chuan looked angrily at the guy. She could not understand where he came from. The main character asked the interlocutor, where did she get the drug? The inspector viciously told the guy that he took her for a child. Su Yi explained to the interlocutor that he was not lying to her. The girl decided that she had a high rank, and the main character would not be able to defeat her. Lo Ziyuan activated her skills. Around it appeared flying skulls in a pink haze. The protagonist and his companion were scared. They stepped back a little. There was a very powerful explosion. He covered Su and Inspector next to him. The girl looked joyfully in front of her and said that it was all over. Lo Yuan unexpectedly noticed some enlightenment in front of her. She was unpleasantly surprised. The girl could not believe that her rivals were still alive. It seemed impossible for her. The main character accelerated in order to immediately hit the girl off his feet with a powerful blow. La Chuan was amazed. She could not understand when the guy managed to quickly get to her. The main character with a smile told the girl that he did it for her. The powerful blow was not able to resist and flew away far back. The girl fell to the ground unconscious after a very powerful blow. The main character invited the inspector to forget about everything. Zhang explained to the guy that from this day he would be subordinate to her. The inspector asked the guy what he did with the rival. She explained that she could no longer evaluate the rank of Lok Yuan. The protagonist explained that he blocked the technology at Lok Yuan. Therefore, now they cannot be felt. Jiang was surprised due to the fact that the guy was able to turn off the skills with one blow. The girl has gone into herself. She did not like the guy's words that he blocked her technology. The angry Loxuan rushed at the guy to attack him in flight. The inspector launched her magic threads to say an opponent. Very quickly, the girl was completely connected. She could not move. The protagonist, together with the inspector, carefully looked at the associated Loxuan. The inspector had blood on his face. She told the guy that she had learned the binding method well. Jiang asked the interlocutor, "What country is behind them?" The girl tried to break out, but could not. The inspector explained to the captive that she knew about her position. The inspector told the girl in surprise that she wanted to give her son the best treatment, but he was hostage. Jiang told the interlocutor that they would help to free her son and give him the best doctors. Loxuan thought she did not know what to answer the inspector to her offer. At this time, a shell appeared on the side. He flew in the direction of the girl. Jiang was very scared. She realized that she and the guy were in danger. The shell hit the wall, and after that, there was a very strong explosion. The main character could not understand how strangers entered this place. Jiang explained that there was a sabotage. The inspector asked the girl strictly, why did she look for the passage? The protagonist thought displeasedly to himself that he had missed the moment. He realized that the inspector is not so easy to deceive. A bound girl tried to free herself. She began to whimper displeasure. Lo Ka Yuan screamed angrily in a dissatisfied voice that she was scared. The main character said that the girl has side effects of the drug. The guy remembered the syringe at Loxuan. He realized that the attackers decided to immediately kill two birds with one stone. The main character realized that the passage was destroyed with the drug. He was wondering who the unexpected guest turned out to be. Su stood near the destroyed wall. He did not know what to do now. The sisters stood on the street. Ijan asked the girl, how long did they still wait for a pervert? Jiran answered his girlfriend that they have no Dr. Su. The girl was unhappy that the main character may be a good person, but he is a pervert. Jiran greeted the protagonist. Su, asked the girl, why is she here? Jiran handed the guy a package and said that this is gratitude for the training. The main character saw cookies inside the package. The box was beautifully decorated. Izhan explained to the guy that her sister prepared cookies. She demanded that the main character not give others a treat. Su smiled at the girl and said that he would definitely try cookies. He thanked Miss Bache. The girl looked sadly aside. She thought about something of her. The inspector appeared. She said in a joyful voice that the guy helps others practice. The protagonist, together with the girlfriends, was surprised. They did not expect Jiang to appear here. The inspector invited the interlocutors together to go to the world of mountains and seas. The girl asked the inspector, what could be another way to get into the world of mountains and seas? Jiang explained to her interlocutors that she would tell them about everything much later. The inspector said that the North Chinese region approved the initiative to select 5 candidates. 2 sisters and the protagonist choose. The girl said joyfully that they will now be able to get into another world together. Jiran asked if more candidates were put forward. The inspector answered the interlocutors that everything was true. The inspector explained to the girls that there are still certain conditions. Baich's sisters were inside the game location. They looked around with interest. Izan asked if they could trust 2 other participants. The sisters saw the hero and his friends. The guys walked and chatted fun among themselves. Su looked at the girl and asked her forgiveness for being late. Jiran told the main character that they had just approached. Izan said in displeasure that it is impossible to force the girls to wait. The sister asked the protagonist who came with him. Su looked at the interlocutors and wanted to introduce his friends to them. Students stood around the protagonist. The guy could not believe that their friend could get acquainted with the main beauties of the mansion. The protagonist turned to the girls and wanted to present them his neighbors around the room. Sun Chi joyfully informed the girls that he was fond of basketball and dancing. The guy Jing Fan told the sisters that it was a great honor for him to meet them. Sun ran to Jiran and very excitedly asked her an autograph. The girl answered the guy that she is always happy to help. Suddenly, Jiran heard a noise on the side. She realized that this was her sister. Ishan ran from the side and hit the students with all her might. They flew up. The girl shouted that these guys should not be trusted. Students fell to the ground from a great height after the flight. The main character decided to himself that he knew. The inspector appeared on the side. She told friends that they arrived on time. A governor of northern China named Li was next to the inspector. Jing explained to the interlocutors that the governor would be selected. The man asked the girl if he sees in front of him the people whom she took away. Jiang asked the governor, "Where is his fighters?" The man with a smile explained to the girl that his participants had already arrived. From the side, there was a noise of many legs. These were soldiers to participate in the competition. The main character saw his rivals in front of him. All of them were from northern China. Su Yi carefully looked at his opponents. He studied them with a look. The inspector told the participants to listen carefully to the rules. There was a testing of skills to enter the world of mountains and seas. Jian told the participants all the details of the upcoming duel. 3 minutes before the start of the battle, players should take positions and discuss the team strategy. The entire territory is at the disposal of the participants in the competition. Players who will leave the overall collection area before the start will be disqualified. Each team should have a captain. If the leader leaves, then the team will be disqualified. The inspector looked at the participants in front of her and said that they would begin. The main character, along with his friends, prepared to meet against rivals. The captain of the team was chosen by Baich Jiran. She was very excited. The main character told friends that he would go into intelligence. He added that the fighters guard the captain. Sun answered a friend that everything would be in the best possible way. The girl looked at her sister with excitement. Jiran decided to run to the main character. Baika grabbed the guy behind the guy. She wanted to tell him something. The guy asked his girlfriend, "What's the matter?" Jiran explained that their opponents were special for their special training. The girl advised the main character so that he would not force himself. The main character sat and carefully read information about his rivals inside the system. Su Yi sat and thought. He did not know who he was the first to start fighting. The main character heard a very loud noise behind himself. He realized that the danger was approaching. Su Yi was wary. He realized that behind someone wants to attack him. A huge shell was carried on top of the trees. He demolished the foliage from them. The fighter stood near a huge gun. He said joyfully that the first goal was ready. The guy looked at his notebook. He said that we need something more for the world of mountains and the seas. The fighter decided to replace the rail with qigong. It should have been more effective. The main character suddenly appeared behind the opponent. He asked cheerfully what he was painting. The fighter scaredly bounced to the side. The main character told the opponent that he wanted to pay attention to the shortage of the renal aura. This must be treated. The guy was scared. He could not understand where the main character came from behind him and saw his sketches. The rival shouted to the main character that he would now experience his abilities again. He began to draw something. A huge gun appeared. The guy shouted joyfully that the sight would be magnificent. There was a very powerful explosion. The main character calmly stood still and looked in front of him. Su Yi calmly stopped the shell with his bare hands. He asked the opponent, "Is he really using the same trick?" The fighter was surprised. He could not believe that the guy stopped the shot with his bare hands. The main character activated the magical skill. A yellow ball appeared in his hands. He said that this is a good way to practice. Su Yi turned the ball to the sides. In front of him, needles appeared. The main character swung and launched a whole swarm of needles into his opponent. The needles at full speed dug into the opponent's body. The guy fell to the ground. Su Yi stood at a distance and carefully looked at the opponent. He decided to come up. The main character told the guy that he was practicing acupuncture and cauterization. Su-yi explained to the fighter that in 2 hours he could move, but the balance would be displaced. The fighter told the main character that he would remember such an effective and simple move next time. The opponent explained to the main character that he had a task to distract him. The guy said that his colleagues had to find friends of the protagonist. The girl stood and waved a sword against her opponent. The guy was scared. Sun stood and closed with a sword against a possible attack by his opponent. Sun, in surprise, noticed as if he had been in a fairy tale world. The opponent held a test tube in his hands. He told the guy that he had got into his world. Sun looked around in fright. He saw soaring, fabulous bears. The opponent told him that he would not get out of here. The player screamed in fright. He realized that he was in a very serious trap. The guy sneezed loudly. All pink bears around him scattered to the sides. The fighter was scared. He asked the guy with displeasure, how could he destroy his dream world? Sun swung a sword. He wanted to explain to his opponent how he got out of this place. The player launched his flying shield. He joyfully said that he was allergic to perfume. The flying shield at full speed struck the opponent and knocked him down. The fighter said very displeasure to himself that he needs to be careful. There was a huge explosion aside. A huge pillar of fire appeared above the forest. The fighters looked in surprise to the side. They did not understand what happened. The guy accelerated and rushed with all his might towards the explosion. Sun was very surprised due to the fact that his opponent disappeared. Sun looked with surprise after the runaway guy. He did not understand where he had so much power. The governor watched the fight with attention. The system said that Joe dropped out of the competition. The man said displeasedly that if Joe had a little more serious, then this would not have happened. The guy was lying in the game room. A black demon appeared in front of him. Someone silently asked the participant for someone to borrow his body. In the game location, Sisters Beich continued to fight against their rivals. Jiran was unhappy. She could not understand why they could not cope with rivals. The girl noticed that her sister was trying well, holding back the attacks. The guy shouted to his girlfriend named Josie that they need to end with rivals. Sai warned the guy that Dr. Lu could learn about everything. The fighter replied that the doctor would not find out that they had done this trick. The girl told a friend that if something happens, he would be to blame. She put her hand close to the guy's hand. The guy stood opposite the girl. A bright, fiery flame appeared around them. The girl was very amazed. She did not understand what they saw in front of them with her sister. A huge flaming monster named Zhuzun appeared in front of the girls. The monster from all over the scale hit the ground with his fist. The girls barely managed to bounce to the side. The main character looked at his girlfriends. He could not understand where so much power came from. Su recalled to himself that they went through the special training of Dr. Su. The sister shouted to the girl to aim at the monster's head. They fled together forward. Su scaredly told her friend that they were attacked by rivals. The guy held out his hand forward and wanted to use a skill of a flaming palm against the rivals. The sisters ran very quickly and climbed the monster's hand up. Jiran joyfully and with surprise said that she sees only children in front of herself. The guy shouted displeasedly to his opponent so that she would not underestimate them. The monster grabbed the girl with his huge hand. She could not escape. The sister got scared. She tried to break out of the monster's hands. The guy scaredly and joyfully shouted to his girlfriend that he was very cool. Jiran looked cheerfully at the rivals. She laughed joyfully to herself. Su was very surprised. She could not understand where the second sister to do. The fighters did not even notice how Ijan appeared behind them with his bow and arrows. The sister launched a few arrows. She told the rivals menacingly that while there are blind spots, they will lose. Arrows flew past the rivals. They hooked them during the attack. The sister was freed from the hand of the monster. She shouted so that Ijan would attack now. Jiran swung her axe. She prepared to hit the opponents. The sister with all her might hit the monster's body with her weapon to finish him off. After a powerful blow, the monster's body scattered into two parts with an axe. The sisters were able to defeat their rivals and tied them both with a rope. The guy was unhappy. He told sisters that soldiers can be killed, but cannot be humiliated. He wanted to call them to a duel. At this time, dark black smoke appeared next to the participants. The participants were surprised and scared. They looked aside with excitement. The guy opened his test tube. He decided to use it against the attack. The fighter established around people a protective impenetrable dome against a demonic attack. The guy joyfully told Dr. Liu that he was alive. The doctor replied that he was not going to die. The doctor asked the participants if they used the confluence technique. The guy replied that Josie was using equipment. Suddenly, Sun ran up from the side. He waved his hand and turned to the girl. The guy asked the girls if they were wounded. Jiran answered him that they were in order, and Jo San had just saved them. The fighter explained that he only saves his two friends. He advised other fighters to run away as soon as possible. A stranger appeared. He pulled Jing Fanya in his hands and gradually approached the protective barrier. The warrior angrily shouted to his rivals that he wanted to take them all together. The stranger angrily and with great desire looked at the rivals opposite him. The main character fled the game location. He wanted to help his friends. Chen Huang flew up behind her master and said that she wanted to tell something. The guy answered the girl that he was listening to her. The assistant told the surprise guy that another immortal appeared. The main character came to the game location for the meeting place. He could not understand where his friends went. The guy looked closely at the ground and noticed traces of the battle there. The main character felt a black aura rose from the trace on the ground. The aura attacked the guy. Black smoke began to envelop him from all sides. The black aura raised the protagonist high above the ground. He was stuck on his arms and legs. The opponent viciously told the main character that he was disappointed in him. Friends really believed in Su. Su-A, looking at the opponent, asked how he was going to take a new look. The protagonist was able to break the black aura with a sharp movement of his hands. Su-E, with the acceleration, rushed at his opponent with his huge sword. The main character viciously asked the guy, "Where is his other friends?" The fighter looked at the protagonist and demanded that he recognize the defeat. Girlfriends and friends of the protagonist were unconscious. The fighter suggested that Su take his friends intact and unharmed after the recognition of the defeat. The protagonist glanced angrily at the opponent and said that nothing prevents them from remembering the past. Su-E, a very sharp and unexpected movement, attacked his opponent. The hand on the guy's body began to dry sharply. He fell off a part of his clothes. The fighter looked at his opponent and said that he was reading opponents well. Su-E explained to the opponent that he could not call for spirits without prejudice to himself. The fighter laughed and told his opponent that he would not lose anything from that. The main character silently and very excitedly looked at his opponent. The fighter said that a temporary body and soul are a moment for eternity. Eternity is the limit of truth. The main character said that only the madman would seek immortality in the immoral world. A black cloud appeared near the main character's leg. The aura began to capture it. Su-E, with great excitement, looked aside and around him. He tried to free himself. The fighter watched with interest how the black fog enveloped his opponent from all sides. The guy shouted to the main character that only a madman could defeat time. The body of the protagonist was almost completely in the black fog. He looked around with one eye. The main character held out his hand to the side. He tried to free himself from the black aura. The body of Su was completely shrouded in black fog. The opponent told the guy that they came to the conclusion that they would be enemies forever. The fighter said that you need to find your true path. This will require new settings and scenario, according to which a person will go to the goal. The guy was surprised. He did not understand what was happening with his spirit. The body of the protagonist in the black fog began to glow. A warrior appeared inside the black aura. His body shone with a golden color. The main character was completely freed. He told the opponent that no matter how much time passed, behind the guy stood a golden magic warrior. Su took the sword in his hands. He told the opponent that he would remain a lost and miserable creation. The opponent sent a cloud of black magic against the protagonist. He shouted that they would still see which of them a miserable creature. The main character noticed how his golden assistant took out his sword to fight against the demon from the black aura. The golden fighter beat off the attacks of the black demon straight in front of him. The main character realized that if the opponent was watching him all the time, then he knows all his techniques. The rival with a smile told the guy to continue to become stronger. Suddenly, the guy was scared. He noticed something very suspicious. The fighter saw the deed of the protagonist fell down from a height and rested on the ground. The guy saw his image in the sword. He looked closely at him. The fighter saw his image changed in the reflection of the sword. He shouted to the main character that they would now see what would remain of that. The warrior shouted that he was bored. He threw aside the sword with a strong blow. The guy asked the opponent, did he really decide that he could defeat him? The golden warrior continued to fight against a black demon with burning eyes. Su asked the opponent with displeasure, is he going to cover the whole imagination? The protagonist said very viciously to the fighter that his strength is already running out. The protagonist explained to the frightened opponent that he should not have called for perfume. The golden warrior looked at the black demon in front of him and decided to finish him off. The fighter swung his golden sword and hit him on his demonic opponent. The golden warrior was struck by the blow of the black demon. The guy said that his opponent pulled time and became stronger. The fighter looked at the protagonist and said that he would wait for their next meeting. After that, he disappeared. The main character was silent. He realized that he would have to meet this opponent again. Su said reasonably to himself that there would be no next meeting with the fighter. The golden warrior turned into a huge explosion. He wandered around the black aura. Jiran excitedly cowardly his sister to bring her to himself. She said that the competition was over. The sister very persistently asked Izhan if they won the competition. The girl smiled. She did not know what to answer her sister. Yizhen looked into the sky and told her sister that they won. Two other fighters approached them from the side. The main character was in his room in the hostel. He took off virtual glasses. Su looked at the glasses and told his friends that he was ready. Sun and Fan ran to the main character and began to thank him. Sun shouted joyfully to his friend that he was treating him. Another guy said cheerfully that they seemed to be born again today. The main character thought that during the fight against the opponent, he did not leave the feeling that something was wrong. He decided to ask Jiangshan about everything. The doctor told the guy that he needed his help on the weekend. The main character answered in fright that he had no experience with a visit to the house. The man handed the guy a document. He said that he would get acquainted with the history of the disease. The main character looked at the patient's photograph. She seemed to him a friend. The document reported that the girl fell into whom for unknown reasons. Su realized that he sees Joe in front of him and with whom he had previously fought. The protagonist and the doctor arrived at the hospital. They met there with a nurse. The nurse told Dr. Lee that the director was already waiting for him. The man answered the woman that he would call her if something happens. Lee came up behind and greeted the doctor. He turned frightened. The doctor asked the man, why did he come and who is with him? Lee explained that next to him, his student, Su-yi. The main character bowed and greeted the doctor. He realized that he sees in front of him the governor of Eastern China from the game. The doctor ordered the subordinate to disinfect the needle and began to act. He recalled the patient's card. The doctor said that the patient never woke up after the competition. The girl lay unconscious on the bed. Su realized that she fell into a coma on the day of their gaming competitions. The doctor noticed that the patient has a strange heartbeat. This could lead to a coma. The man thought that if this is a new incurable disease, it would be problematic. The main character told the man that he would try to cure the patient. The doctor asked the guy if he met with similar cases or did he read about it in ancient scriptures? Sui joyfully replied that he remembers the treatment method. The protagonist looked at the doctor and said that he trusted him. The man told the guy that he could not use unrelated treatment methods. Lee told Dr. Yu, "The patient has an unusual pulse." He explained that his student would try to heal the girl. The man was surprised that the student would participate in the treatment. The man screamed angrily that he would not allow the guy to even touch the patient. Lee explained that his student knows what he is doing. The family of the guy owns the ancient scriptures. Lee explained to the man that all this is risky, but there was no other way out. The doctor decided to give the guy the opportunity to try. He thought that the girl Xiao He had a chance. The doctor told the guy that he could begin. He recalled that he is responsible for his career and for someone else's life. The protagonist revealed his collar. There were a lot of metal needles. Su took one needle in the hand. He prepared to use her on the girl's body. Su-yi carefully watched the girl. He realized that she was suffering from the spirit. The essence of the patient is as if impregnated with an evil aura, and this energy is unusually sinister. Su-yi inserted a needle into the girl's body. He realized that he should use his aura now. Cheng-Huan informed the owner that she feels the energy of the immortal. The main character realized that he sees in front of him the game character Zhou. The protagonist continued to work hard into the head of the girl for treatment. Su not noticed how yellow fire appeared near one of the needles in his head. The medical device showed how the girl sharply jumped the pulse. The main character stood and carefully looked at the patient. A small luminous yellow spots appeared above the girl. They headed up. The doctor was very surprised. He did not understand what was happening to the girl. The man looked carefully at the guy and was very worried. The doctor noticed that the main character did not even change in his face. Su-yi was completely calm. The guy began to carefully knock on needles in the girl's body. Around the patient's body, pieces of black aura appeared. She was still unconscious. The black aura began to rise above the patient and gradually dissolve in the air. The medical device showed how the girl's pulse gradually returned to normal. The man ran to the guy and asked in fright, "What was it?" "Su-e," answered the doctor, that the girl needs to rest a little. The man touched the girl's hand. He noted that her pulse was stable. The doctor looked closely and noticed that the patient's complexion and breathing became better. The man told Dr. Lee that his student had great potential. The doctor told the main character that he worked well today. Su thanked the man and replied that all this was thanks to him. The protagonist told his teacher that he was nervous and go a little rest. The girl told the main character that she no longer feels an aura. The guy answered the assistant that the patient was a simple person. Che Kwang said, with the excitement that she felt the power of the immortal from the girl. The protagonist explained that it was an alien aura. There is someone else. The girl excitedly said that someone Kavarni was able to fool them. The main character said that when the patient's heart almost stopped, he received a message. The stranger informed the guy that he found his hint. The game in this world is over. Su has received an offer to continue in the world of mountains and seas. Dr. Wu watched with great attention how the main character stood in the corridor and talked with someone. The man asked the girl, was she really asking on his behalf so that the Dr. Lee came? Zhang answered the interlocutor what she was easy to do. She reminded the man that his subordinate was saved and he is her debtor. The man told the inspector that her goal is the main character. Zhang answered thoughtfully that in the world of mountains and seas, traditional medicine trainees would be appreciated. The inspector asked the man, was he not interested in SU? The main character, along with friends, stood near East China at the entrance. Sun told his friend that there is a lot of interesting things in another world. They can get rich. Jiran turned to Mr. Van and told him that everything was in place. The policeman replied that Zhang Shan was missing. Now he leads the team. The man asked the participants if they remember the main rule. Van wanted to tell his interlocutors about the main rule in the world of mountains and seas. The man explained to the participants that the survivor in the game would be the winner. Van explained to the participants that fantasy is a regular simulation. On the other side of the portal, death will be final. The man explained to the interlocutors that other animals would be waiting for them in the world and seas. The girl asked the man, "Will they be safe in cities in the world of mountains and seas?" Van explained to the interlocutor that she was very mistaken. The man said that cities are a dangerous place. There are imperfect laws. In the cities are the forces of other countries. They compete with each other. Therefore, each participant will be for himself. Su thought to himself that the situation was very difficult. He decided that the immortal was hiding in another world. Van told his interlocutors that if they are all ready, then they can move forward. Students joyfully confirmed the man that they were ready to move forward. Someone carefully watched people near the portal. He said that he records fluctuations at the entrance. The girl sat on the beach with a drink and looked at the tablet. The observer said that guests from the east will soon appear. The man stood in the city and looked very carefully at the bridge over the river. The warrior samurai chopped a wooden bar with a very powerful blow to the sword. Hindu sat in a meditative pose near the temple. Someone said that the established order is more ineffective. New resource distribution rules will be introduced. The main character stood and looked in front of him at the portal. He thought that everything would begin with his vessel. The leadership, in turn, required clarification from Shan about the destroyed eastern entrance. Jang replied that she conducted an analysis of the drug LO, which is produced abroad. She was also the culprit of the accident. And in the investigative group, most likely there is a spy, and it was with its help that Juan turned various operations. One of the advisors asked the inspector how she could explain the unexpected appearance of Yo and whether he is a foreigner. Sean gave them a personal file Sue and said that he was a regular graduate student and took part in the operations of the detachment of K. However, the guy really used strange techniques of various ranks and always defeated his rivals. At the end of the meeting, the commander of Hao headed for the newly made detachment. Looking at young talents, he extremely underestimatedly called them newcomers. Then they greeted them in the world of mountains and seas, which was quite beautiful. Van noted that there are 6 areas under their control, and they will have enough spiritual energy to quickly improve. At that moment, the young master rather unexpectedly rose in the rank. The detective was surprised. The indignant Hao could not understand how he could advance forward at 2 stages of development. The Soul-Commanders were also surprised and began to ask him about it. Yo said that he felt the upcoming breakthrough. The commander suddenly ordered everyone to follow him into the order of instructions. No one understood what was being discussed. The main character began to look around. Such a plentiful place of the aura reminded him of the era of Chunzu. After all, just being in this location, it has already improved. The main thing is that the immortal operation is smooth. Having brought the command to the Hao Instructions Hall that they should carry out tasks in order to get nephritis, this is a currency and experience. Then pointing to their wrist bracelets, he said that they stored the fighter's personal information and the number. Also, with their help, you can view the missions and send a signal SO when they fall into trouble. Sue immediately began to get acquainted with the high-level task, which was only possible for him. Suddenly, an unknown girl approached them and insolently asked which of them E. The young lady said that he was just a child who was just lucky to take first place on the tests. After that, an overly self-confident girl invited him to arrange a duel and asked how much gold he had. Sun did not like her so arrogant behavior, and he made a remark to her. The impudent lady instantly rushed in his direction to strike and said that he should not interfere in this matter. Sue, in turn, stopped her hand with a lightning-fast movement and agreed to a duel. Satisfied with herself, she immediately called the teenager to the arena, naively believing that she would overcome him. The perplexing Duran asked Van why he did not stop them. In response, the commander sighed heavily and stated that there were no rules in the world and seas. And here, everything is decided by force. Colleagues Yo were shocked by such a statement by the detective. A moment later, everyone began to call on the upcoming fight for the newcomer and with the warrior of Eastern China. Naturally, the majority supported the girl because they simply did not know the guy. An extremely self-confident lady decided to give a start to a beginner in 3 strokes, which she hastened to declare businessly. However, the young master was not at a loss and answered her with the same thing that shocked the girl. At the same moment, the arrogant lady hurried to attack the SU, intending to demonstrate its strength to him. But the main character easily dodged the blow and subsequently, the girl flew past him, after which she again rushed to the attack, while the teenager continued to stand still, as if he had not felt a threat. Then he once again evaded the blow and calmly stepped aside, so the warlike lady broke the asphalt. He noticed that she has a very good reaction, but she was in a hurry, adding that it is easy to find a weak place, but to put pressure on it at the right time. This is another matter. In a second he grabbed her leg. As a result, he was able to neutralize it with only pressing his finger to a point on his neck. Finally, her ardor lost, and she recognized her defeat. Everyone was shocked by this outcome. The offended girl hastened to leave the arena and stated that the next time it would be stronger. At the end of the battle, Ijan immediately ran to the SU and asked if he was in order. On the contrary, Jiran still held offense at him. The guy with a smile on his face replied that everything was fine with him and it was just training. The commander, in turn, was unhappy and urged the young man to keep up. After all, the teenager not only raised his level, but also easily dealt with his subordinate Chen Jin. Having brought the team to the tunnel, Hao noticed that there are more cities than in fantasy. Looking inside, they were dumbfounded. Since the world of monsters was waiting for them, huge snakes and demons walk through the jungle. Van also said that this is a reality, and if they die, it would not work out. Yo saw a false ginseng and said that it could be exchanged for spiritual jade, so it is better to pick up the plant. But at that moment, Chi stepped on the medicinal grass and called Fanya behind him, as he saw in the distance the phoenix. The young master tried to reanimate the plant and thought that it could still be exchanged. However, Jin running after Sunam again stepped on ginseng. The main character could not stand it and shouted at them because these herbs were their source of income. But Chi said that you can't help out a lot for them, and besides, the circulation of spiritual nephritis has not yet been formed here. Fan added that they will be able to earn more on the completion of tasks and in the exchange market. Understanding that not to reach stupid Satemans, Yo decided to collect these plants alone. The team members did not understand him and went to study the new card, leaving the SU of 1. Finally, they left, and the guy breathed a sigh of relief, after which he continued to examine the territory for useful herbs. Suddenly, the teenager smelled a disgusting smell of wild animals in the air and was wary. The wrist bracelet instantly notified him of the anxiety of the first level associated with the invasion of the monsters and offered to go to the shelter. Naturally, the young man hurried back, where he met the worried Jiran and asked what was the matter. Eternally displeased, Ijan asked him a counter-question where Sun and Jin, surprised Su, said that they thought here. Van, in turn, could not find bioinformation within urban fortifications. Yo instantly asked Hao what specifically means this invasion of animals. The commander reluctantly replied that predators had formed a certain army, including humanoid-like ones. The reason for their appearance still remains a mystery, and when they get together, there is an assumption that the city will be attacked. And those who remained outside the city fortifications and shelters will most likely not survive. The perplexing Ijan asked, "Is it really impossible to inform them about this?" Van answered sadly that he was left, hoping for their luck. Suddenly, Su quite confidently said that he would go in search of them. The shocked detective said that he could not resist the invasion of animals, and this is a certain death. However, the guy was decisively configured and said that he could not leave his friends in trouble, but he does not care about persuasion. After that, The young master jumped down. The dumbfounded commander ordered him to immediately return. Meanwhile, Sun and Fan dealt with predators and conducted the calculation of the defeated demons. Thus Chi managed to kill 15 monsters, and Jin is only 13. But the distraught predators were a huge number and became more dangerous. At that moment, the incredible size of a cobra approached them. The guy did not notice her. The snake with a lightning-fast movement rushed to the attack. It seemed that there was no chance of salvation. However, the protagonist timely arrived in time for their aid, and climbing the cobra tried to pierce her durable skin with a sword. Then he jumped off the monster and called on Sunya to find a thistle to attach him to the wound of Fanya, adding that he personally deal with this monster and hasten to attack the cobra. Yo understood that if he could not break through the skin, then there would be no way to conduct an effective attack. And the longer all this will happen, the stronger the snake will become. He needed to hurry. A moment later, Su still managed to defeat the beast and cut into small pieces. The dumbfounded Chi asked the teenager how he managed to do this. At this time, Chizi ran into prey. There were a huge number of them, and they all wanted only one. Naturally, the young man was not afraid of them and again exposed his blade, then defiantly moved in their direction. However, for an unknown reason, they suddenly turned around and went away. Key suggested that they won, but Fan hurried to refute it. Since they did not run in a panic, but calmly retreated, this said that someone was commanding them. The young man noticed that he had heard in the distance the sound of the horn, and they really were not them. Meanwhile, the Chiki army attacked the eastern city. Everything was glowing with fire. Van commanded the guards and ordered the archers to attack the monsters. It was also necessary to take the wounded from the battlefield. Hao noticed that this time, the invasion of demons took place differently. After all, they had not had siege stairs and catapults before, which is surprising, because in previous reports it was not indicated that they have signs of developed intelligence. A few seconds later, a huge snake appeared on the horizon, on which the leader of the monsters was on the top, and he had a mountain. Everyone rushed into a brutal massacre. The detective also bravely fought with monsters. He did not expect them to use a massive attack. At this moment, Ijan said that the arrival of reinforcements from other cities would take a certain time, and she has energy at the end of it. Suddenly, a huge stone flew in them, launched by a catapult, but they managed to bounce to the side. Baicha noticed that the enemy continues to attack. Her sister said the opposite. As it turned out, it was Su who threw Chi and Fanya to strengthen, so he saved his life. The perplexing Jiran asked them why they fell on them from the sky. Jin replied that they flew on Chenghuan and threw them. After that, the young man urged the commander to save the teenager, as he stated that he would force the demons to retreat, but it was dangerous. The furious Hao did not understand why this guy is constantly heroic, because he could die at any moment. Baich called the detective to pay attention to a rather strange invasion of monsters. Meanwhile, their leader continued to move on the snake and looked out for a young man, which at that moment flew right above him on Chenhuan. The leader of the animals noticed him. The young master, however, understood that his provocation was still a success and everything was going according to plan. Yo called for his wolf will go north, the Pitamitsa asked. Was it really to that very place? The leader of the monsters followed them. Su replied that they would really have to come to the place of their first meeting. After all, it is there that which will certainly destroy the invasion of the monsters. At that moment, the magical fireball of the monster Vladika flew past them, who suddenly spread his wings and flew into the air, began to attack the young man with a she-wolf, releasing the magic spheres. But Cheng Huan could not drop the demon from the tail. The teenager called her to move more smoothly. Then he began to combine spiritual energies, thanks to which he recently made a breakthrough. As a result, he generated a magic bow and hurried to release several arrows in the ruler of animals. However, not one of them has landed at the target, in connection with which the monster was prematurely delighted. The main character asked did he really think he missed. Subsequently, the arrows were adjusted into the ice surface, and the wind suddenly rose. A moment later, a huge monstrous creature attacked the Lord by releasing a large snowball that literally froze everything for a few seconds. Thus, under the block of ice were most predatory animals. Yo drew attention to the wound of Cheng Huan and hurried to bandage the she-wolf. Then it was necessary to wait until the snow monster calmed down and find the healing herbs to cure his pet. Finally, when the creature disappeared, they again went on a distant path, bypassing the frozen bodies of demons, which were carelessly scattered along the snowy slope. Sue thought that there was a barrier between the real world and this dimension. Otherwise, these monsters would have destroyed the earth. Cheng Huan called her master. As she found a frozen ruler of demons, she noticed a bottle of him. The guy took out his blade to pick out an interesting little thing and find out what it is. It was obvious that the monster took it away from people and filled it with something unknown. The sad wolf noted that there was nothing to eat in it because it was insanely hungry. Suddenly Van contacted him. He ordered the teenager to immediately return. Having gathered all the good, Yo told Cheng Huan that at the moment she was free and, if necessary, he would call her. Then he hastened to return to the base, where his faithful friends were looking forward to him. They were frightened to death because they believed that they were not alive and rushed into the arms. Even forever displeased, Izhan said that they were worried about him, and he never deigned to contact them. However, this time it was Jiran who was offended by the sister to return. While the young master wondered how he so offended the girl, Hao literally boiled with anger. The commander angrily stated that the young man would be punished for unauthorized departure from the city and disobedience. The main character, in turn, pleaded guilty and offered a huge number of resources as compensation, adding that he dealt with the help of a snow monster with monsters and, besides all trophies, he still has something. Sue showed the pill and said that it will help them with the development of techniques, and if he needs a capsule, then he is ready to give it. The detective grabbed his pill from him. The teenager thought he was already forgiven, but Van said, embittered, that an attempt to bribe is an aggravating circumstance, and this spiritual fruit, along with all the trophies, will go for the benefit of their community. Then Yo went to the night market, since he lacked spiritual jade, because his skills were quite energy-intensive. He was also forbidden to leave the city, and since everyone worked out his skills with Valle glasses, no one needs his pills. On the way, Chen met again. The girl said that everyone was only talking about his feat, how he repulsed the invasion of animals. Seeing him a little bag, Jing asked, was it all that he earned for the whole day? The guy boldly answered her. The young lady realized that she had touched the young man for the living and called him to calm down. And if he wants to know where else to earn money, then he should follow her. Having brought him to the Jade treasure shop, she stated that this is the main shadow market in the world of mountains and seas. Sue remembered how Fan spoke to him about various ways to obtain spiritual nephritis. The young master looked around and found that the owner of the shop was clearly a lot of hobbies. At that moment, a young lady came out and joyfully greeted the brave warrior Yo. Then Van Yuiman introduced herself and asked what exactly the young man was looking for. The main character said that he was not going to buy anything. Van, in turn, was not even upset. Yuiman kindly invited them to look in, and if something interests, she will be nearby. Then Chen whispered why she even brought this poor guy here. After all, she does not have a shelter for disadvantaged here, and she does not play charity. Jing noted that he could become her employee. Sue suddenly called to Madame Van and asked if she was buying things. Yuiman replied that if he offers something interesting, which she does not have, then she would definitely buy it. He immediately took out a pill of ki strengthening. The girl's eyes climbed on his forehead. The owner of the bench said that she did not expect to see the legendary capsule with her own eyes. Van instantly offered him 6,000 spiritual nephritis and asked if he agreed. The teenager was surprised that Yuiman was really ready to pay such an amount for this capsule. Chen asked if this pill was so good and she would not even check the goods. The confident owner of the store said that she had seen many such treasures and distinguishes them from fake, understanding that at the auction she will be able to inflate the price with the help of an alternate people and help out a round amount for it. Van decided to ask SU to ask if he had something else interesting for sale. Yo pulled out a filled bottle with the same capsules and stated that if she wants, he could buy the whole batch. The girl literally shocked. She did not imagine how rich the guy was rich in pills. Naturally, she had nowhere to put such an amount in the near future, but her greed did not allow her to take her. The young man realized that she would not master so many capsules and asked for forgiveness from the dumbfounded Yuiman. Adding that he has someone to offer 200 pills, Van instantly rushed after the departing Sue. Then she completely blocked his path and said that she was simply embarrassed for a second, seeing so many capsules. Ultimately, the girl nevertheless forced herself for a large amount of jade. The guy thanked her for his cooperation. Then he showed her a bottle that he took from the leader of the demons. Chen noticed that she was empty. Van saw traces of some incomprehensible mold on her, but Yo said that if he took her with him on the attack, then she clearly represents some value. Yuiman, in turn, hastened to conduct a laboratory study of this mold. The young master asked her what she was able to find out about this pollen. The girl said that she had not previously met such a mineral powder and did not understand how the animals were able to grind it so much. Jing suggested that they are dealing with highly developed St. Petersburgs. But the main character hurried to put forward a different version and said that people may help them. Soon, the commander held the meeting and noticed that he did not know where these monsters came from and what goals were pursuing. And the main task of the team is to clarify the appearance of the invasion of these monsters, adding that it does not matter where they will fulfill the mission, in the rear or on the front line, and most importantly, the result. Su thought that he has been living for more than 2,000 years, but had not met this mineral before, and where a factory for processing this powder can be. At that moment, Hao threw a pen at him, and the young man easily caught it. Evil Van urged him not to be self-noted and clearly follow all the instructions. Yo asked, "Is it really so important how much he would achieve the result?" Because the detective himself spoke about this. The commander reddened with anger, understood that the teenager caught him, and decided to make some adjustments. Having attached to watch him Jiran, from which naturally Sue was surprised, as well as a young lady. After some time, they were already walking through the forest, and the young man noticed that they had not talked to her since the last time. By ignoring him, she looked at the map and said that it was in this zone that demons often gathered. The teenager suggested going into reconnaissance. As he already has some experience, the offended person continued to be silent. The perplexing young master could not understand what he earned such an attitude. Suddenly, some distant sound sounded, and in most animals, his eyes caught fire in red. Looking out of the tree, they saw an unknown on the wolf. Jiran suggested that the monsters were again preparing an attack, and with the help of this powder, animals are zombie. At that moment, the demon spent a staff and the animals followed him. Yo realized that the traces were on the bottle and urged the beta to report on everything Van while he dealt with the monsters. After that, the main character bravely rushed towards the leader of the monsters and exposed his sword. As a result, a massacre ensued, in which the young man had superiority, despite the fact that all zombie animals immediately rushed to attack him. Sue, in turn, immediately inflicted a crushing blow to the leader of the mutants, which instantly flew into a crowd of animals, obviously not expecting such an incredible power from a person. Then the monster began in a hurry to activate the disappearance technique, creating a magic circle around him. At the same moment, he attacked the guy to win some more time for teleportation. However, Yo, with lightning speed, used the magic barrier and thereby blocked the attempts of the demon. Then he rushed to the attack and eliminated the leader of the animals with only a movement. Naturally, predators were furious due to the action of the powder and rushed at the teenager. The young man did not stand on ceremony with them and gave a battle, furious mutants. One by one another, the young master easily defeated and deprived his life. After a certain time, the earth literally burst into the blood of desperate animals. However, at this time, Jiran suddenly appeared and called out the protagonist. The worried Yo called her to immediately leave this location and return to the city. Suddenly, a huge lion headed in her direction, who, a moment later, jumped on the bike. Sue managed to jump with her, so they collapsed down into the hole. The girl looked around and noticed. Apparently, she stood near the secret entrance. The guy repeated again that she just had to return. The embittered young lady asked if he knew why she was behaving like that. Then he herself replied that Yo always climbs into the thick of events. Suddenly, Jiran burst into tears and said that he was stronger than all of them, but at such a pace they can lose their friend. The teenager was literally shocked by the fact that she actually worries about him. Sue sadly lowered his head and asked her forgiveness because he lived alone for too long and was not used to taking care from the outside. At that moment, a chiz with a stuffed bag of something unknown suddenly came out of the cave. Naturally, our heroes became curious that he had in his bag, and having dealt with the monster, they found crystals in the bag. The young man suggested that this is the place of processing of the powder. Jiran picked up a stone and she felt hot. Seeing the state of the girl, he urged her to recover because they have too much age difference. But Beish, touching his body, noticed that it was quite cool and she was stuffy. The young master began to understand that this mineral was too dangerous for people as he overshadowed her mind. And the first step was to rid her of intoxication. With a sharp movement, he pricked her needle in the neck. Suddenly, a certain magic began to come from the body of a young lady. Jiran shouted sharply, after which she seemed to come to her senses and, looking around, she asked what had happened to her. The main character replied that these silicates cause blood sealing and arousing passion in a person. And it was precisely because of this that she began to behave inappropriately and attacked him. In the end result, the teenager received a slap in the face of the girl and could not understand that he did not do so again. Then they went inside the cave where Chiji mined crystals and stood a huge stone monster above them. And while these ore-bearing veins existed, there was a risk that the animals would again fall under the influence. One of the workers unexpectedly saw them and froze in place. Jiran perfectly understood that he could not let him hide. Subsequently, the button accordion shot at him from the bow, and the arrow tore off his hand. At the same moment, an angry stone guard with a pick in his hands went to them. He immediately struck, but landed in the wall. The stones scattered in different directions. Yo urged the young lady to stay in place while he dealt with this Verzila. The guy also ordered Chenhuan to defend Jiran. The she-wolf instantly rushed to her. Meanwhile, Thunder was facing the young man and hastened to attack him. However, once again struck a stab at the stone wall. The rockfall began again. Sue instantly exposed his blade and began to immediately deal with it. After that, Thunder began to use all the same dark magic against the young master, but the flame rushed past the protagonist. Yo suggested that he missed. Turning around, he found that his fiery spheres fell straight into stone fences. Thus, the demon cleared his way, because he was not going to throw silicates. Chiz, in a panic, began to scatter throughout the cave. Yo understood that they were simply afraid of their leader. Sue became opposite the huge vein of crystals and called on a stone guard to attack him. Naturally, Verzila hurried to attack the young man, but the teenager sharply bounced to the side and the monster hit the silicates. Without wasting time, the guy took advantage of his abilities and activated a certain seal over him. A moment later, fiery snakes went to the giant, which limited him in movements. Since the monster was constrained by gold chains, Yo said that he just wanted to talk to him. Finally, the stone Verzila stopped resisting and fixed his formidable look at SU. Then, the teenager began to explain to him that people do not need these crystals, and if he, in turn, agrees to limit access to the cave to everyone except people, then these all such precious silicates will belong only to him. Thunder silently looked at the young man. Yo asked if he was understood what they were asking for. The guard was still silent, but judging by his expression, he really understood everything. Finally, the young master left him alone in the cave and went with Duran back to the city. They literally soared in the air on the wolf. Sue urged her to stay stronger so as not to fall. However, the main character did not leave the thought that he had forgotten about something and began to reflect. Then he suddenly remembered that he needed to take a model of these silicates. Baich laughed quietly at him. The guy said that he usually remembers everything, and this was an accident. And I didn't even forget about the cookies that she gave him. The box was wrapped in an orange tape. Jiran decided to clarify and asked how these cookies tasted. Yo replied that there were mint and chocolate, and he gave the rest to Fanya and Chi. The upset girl said sadly that he nevertheless gave them to others. Sue said that they did not have time to have breakfast that day, and he shared with them. Suddenly, emotions prevailed over her, and the young lady hit the teenager on the back, saying that he should look forward. A perplexing guy could not understand what she was offended again and why he was behaving like that. Suddenly, Duran handed him a bag of silicate samples and said that she did not forget to take them, adding that this is quite strange, because he remembered the cookies and the task was not able to remember. At this time, the assistant Moon noted that this guy was able to identify the location of silicates. Accordingly, in the near future, the invasion of animals is most likely not to be foreseen. Yun, in turn, ordered the assistant to cancel her next meeting. The surprise girl said that there would be a banquet in the CAO house. The woman answered she needed to take her girls. After some time, Shan contacted Van and expressed gratitude to him for the implementation of the mission about the invasion of monsters. However, she was embarrassed by that dungeon. The commander asked in surprise what was wrong with that cave. Jang said that for the first time she sees the demons to avoid contact with people, and this is quite strange. And she had the assumption that Yo was able to tame the Grumel there. Hao doubted the abilities of the young man and asked, did she really believe in it? The senior inspector of the Eastern District insisted that the detective closely watch the guy because he was not so simple. Shan was also able to find out who were those rats that destroyed the gates, and they even managed to penetrate the world of mountains and seas. Van was shocked by such information. Suddenly, Chi burst to Sue and said that Duran and Ijan took their mother. The guy calmly reacted and said that there was nothing wrong with that, and it should be so. The teenager also stated that he was not going to get into their family affairs. Soon the next meeting began, which Hao held, but the young master thought about his own. Van brought a laser pointer on him and asked if he was listening to him at all. The young man answered positively. Sun drew attention to the Yo drawing, where he was depicted as a beige, and realized that he was actually not anyway. Ki decided to tease the protagonist a little, and hung bows on the cactus, noticed that he looked like Duran. However, Sue did not appreciate his jokes, and ignoring the guy, he went to the fresh air. At that moment, the restless Joker pretended that one of the sisters called him. The young man immediately ran up to him and asked where they were. Sun, blurring in a smile, admitted that he was just joked, and no one called him. Finally, Yo went out into the street to take a walk, but thoughts about the girl did not give him rest. He tried in every possible way to be distracted, realizing that nothing could be between them, and accidentally approached their house. Perhaps it was fate, but Sue decided to leave, as an unknown person suddenly called him and asked if he was really a friend of Duran. It turned out to be the father of girls named Za. He said that he was conducting research on an increased concentration of spiritual energy. Then he brought him to his house, where he decided to introduce the young man to his wife. A businesswoman extremely reluctantly greeted a teenager, drinking wine. The young master realized that he was not very happy to see him here, but he could no longer leave. Xuan asked if he had come to their daughters. Yu confirmed his assumptions and asked where they were. However, the embittered Mu said that he could not visit them and he needs to leave their house. Yun noted that she agreed to transfer their jasper clouds to the school, where, in her opinion, it would be better for them. The indignant Jie said that she was obliged to discuss this with him before disposing of their fate. But the woman replied that she did this for their own good, and before he also acted, sending them to the world of mountains and seas. The angry Zhuan said that at that time they did not know about the invasions of the animals, but here it was dangerous to stay. Mu also became furious and said that he never asked her opinion, making decisions personally, and now it does not suit him. The protagonist hastened to leave and said goodbye to his parents, realizing that he certainly had no place here. Meanwhile, they reached their limit and even began to use their abilities. Ji owned fire, and Yun. It seemed that it would not end so simply. The woman began to accuse her husband of spitting on his family, and only research was important. Then Zhuan attacked. The man tried to calm her down and said that they were actually a guest. The embittered Mu said that this caddy offered their daughters to pair cultivation, and he was not a guest. The teenager, in turn, said that in fact she did not understand everything. Jai noticed that she crosses the boundaries of the permitted and she needs to cool. Suddenly, they nevertheless attacked each other, and Yo stood between them, later which began to restrain their attempts. At a certain moment, the woman suddenly flew away from the leaked flame of Zhuan, but he managed to catch her. The angry Yun accused the SU and ordered not to climb into other people's affairs. The young master said that actually, the girls specially arrived here to be with their family. And it is very difficult to engage in cultivation in the real world, and they themselves perfectly understand this. Finally, the couple reconciled and Jie asked for forgiveness for devoting little time to the family and plunged into their research. After that, Mu contacted the representative of the Yashim Cloud School and asked if her girls got. Xiaobai said that on the way they were attacked and their eldest daughter is safe. But the youngest was on the verge of death. Everyone was shocked by such information. Yun was not himself and said menacingly, which would destroy everyone who touched her daughters. Arriving at the hospital to Jiran, Zhuan noted that they have no reason, and therefore they cannot prove their involvement. Yo, in turn, asked Z who they were and what was happening. The father replied that this is the TRA family, and they are major players in the financial and pharmaceutical business. Mu added that they were forced to cooperate with people from the country, but they refused. Su recommended that they show restraint, as they count on their impulsiveness. At that moment, Chengwan unexpectedly asked the owner to go out and talk to them. The perplexing young master asked what exactly she wanted to declare. The she-wolf said that the body of that girl was poisoned by the devilish Kui. But the young man said that before the hallucinations of mentally ill people were so explained, and Jiran simply weakened a little. However, the Pitomitsa reported that the devilish key turned everything into ashes and erases consciousness. And if the button accordion soon does not get rid of this ailment, then they can lose it. The main character asked if she knew how to cure a young lady. Juan thought about it. Suddenly, Yo himself remembered that in ancient times it was cured by Halcyon water. Then they arrived at the registration platform in the dungeon. Su asked Chen why officially. She replied that everything was developing. Suddenly, unknown people approached them, and the teenager noticed that he did not expect to meet the main star of the world of mountains and seas here. He introduced himself as Cao Xinhe, the second son of the most influential family in this dimension. He asked why the young man arrived here. The guy replied that he loves to explore new locations. The arrogant Malay said that if he crosses to his side, then in the future it will become a great person. Su quickly made it clear to him that he did not want to have anything to do with the TRA family. His bodyguard reacted instantly and said that he had no right to talk like that with the master and speak about his family. As a result, he attacked him with his fists, but the teenager immediately bounced to the side. And Cinny's guard grabbed and said that according to the rules of registration, they did not pass a pass to the dungeon. Cao, on the other hand, called on Uncle Chan to calm down, and they finally left the registration platform. The girl was glad to see the guy and noticed that, from the moment he saved her, she was looking for him, but did not expect to meet the mountains and seas in the world. Yo asked if she was really working as a senior inspector. A young lady replied that she decided to get a more calm job. Sue was also interested in why it was so difficult to get into the dungeon. She explained that this cave with a legacy and therefore hold a tournament here. Having added that the conditions are quite simple, and to get into the dungeon you need to win in 10 contractions, the teenager instantly took part. He literally from one blow defeated the next contender for getting into the cave in the arena. After a certain time, the young master was able to deal with 9 fighters and admired this result. However, Chen Cao turned out to be the next enemy, who hastened to declare that he was wrapping in the powder of malts. The main character in turn called him to action instead of 1,000 empty words. The old man called him extremely impudent and hurried to attack Yo, using his skills. The teenager drew attention to the fact that spells on the rival's cards do not carry any spiritual energy. Su seemed to be the influence of his abilities, but it was only an illusion. Chen naively believed that everything was going according to plan and stated that he learned this skill in the country of Jade. But literally, after a couple of seconds, he landed in a magic cage and did not understand what happened. The gloating young man noticed that, with the help of card tricks, he could not overcome him, having added that he was in vain to his other country with a rather old reception. Uncle Cao hurried to refute his guesses and immediately destroyed the magic barrier. Then he rushed into another attack, saying that no one had managed to defeat him. Yo, in turn, instantly used yin-yang technique, with which he eliminated the enemy. The fire beam literally pierced Chan's body, causing him a rather significant damage. As a result, the defeated old man flew to the side while his mask scattered into small pieces. Even Joe was shocked by such an outcome, because Cao was a fairly strong fighter. Su was interested in her, whether he could now get a pass in the dungeon. At that moment, he suddenly received a call from Fanya. The guy said that the state of Jiran was sharply worsening. The teenager, in turn, urged him to engage in her family while he was finished. The young man perfectly understood that he needed to act quickly in order to save a bike. Meanwhile, Shan came to Van and said that he could not be left for a minute, as the irreparable has already happened. The depressed commander apologized to Jiang and said that this happened through his fault. Hao said that he has an urgent business that he wanted to talk to her. However, it was at that moment that Sun interrupted them. The guy flew into the office and said that Izhan sent him a message. Beige complained that she was very scared and it was dark here, after which she suddenly grabbed her. The detective and Shan immediately arrived at the scene of the accident of the Yashim Cloud car. Jiang asked him if there was nothing strange in this. Van replied that this was not like the methods of the Tao family. In addition, it is not clear how the students of the school were next to the path of life and death. Moreover, this route has always been controlled by local authorities and was considered safe. It never happened on it. Hao noticed that the strength of the students was not inferior to the attackers, but they did not expect to be near the path of life and death. Shan urged the commander to find information on a change in tectonic plates under the gorge. A moment later, the result was shocking because the changes were more than rapid. Even the inspector of the Eastern District did not expect such a fateful outcome. She ordered Van to immediately send letters to the other 5 senior inspectors because Izhan should be saved. At this time, the young master hastened to go into the dungeon, but the same annoying Cinny called him. Chao said that he should not take the place of someone who really wants to get there and showed the amulet. However, the young master ignored the arrogant guy and went to the cave. Coming inside, Yo asked Chen Huan where the Halzadin water was located. The she-wolf replied that he would find a source passing through the bridge. One of those who were in the dungeon said that he could not find a heritage since they were already trying to do it. But the main character nevertheless went deep into the cave, the guy repeated again, so that he would not do this. A huge snake was on the way. The teenager did not expect such a turn. The dragon hastened to release the fiery sphere in his direction, but the young man managed to bounce. After that, exposing his blade, he said that he was ready to save the life of the monster, but subject to its retreat. Naturally, the snake did not listen to him and rushed into the attack. Later, the monster paid with life, because he defeated the ferocious dragon with just one wave of the sword. The dumbfounded fighter joyfully shouted that the demon was finally defeated. The SU went on. The guy ran to his fellow knights and stated that the path was free and they could go to the capture of the heritage. Sini followed him. He asked the warriors who could defeat the fire snake. The young man replied that this was the master who repelled the invasion of animals. The Tsao was in shock. Meanwhile, the teenager began to cross the bridge to the other side. Suddenly, a self-confident Xinyi called him and said that he was killing such dragons for 5 pieces every time. Suddenly, Yo ordered anyone not to approach the bridge. Everyone froze in place. And only the weak-minded Chao said that this bridge is in perfect order, and he could not deceive them. He naively believed that Su was simply afraid to be left without prey and wants to get rid of competitors. Sina hastened to report that the struggle for the legacy should take place in conditions of honest competition. Suddenly, the young master pushed him aside, and the guy backed away. At the same time, he bounced himself. At that moment, a huge fireball flew between them, which destroyed the bridge. As it turned out, the defeated serpent at the last outbreak managed to attack them. Naturally, the stupid Tisa accused him of intentionally destroying the bridge. Thus, the protagonist was on the other side and hurried behind chalcedonic water. An angry teenager ordered his minions to find something to guide a new bridge to go for a heritage. However, instead, there was wild fear on the faces of the soldiers. The guy asked, what was the matter? Having stated that they have nothing to be afraid of, because when he gets to the heritage, everyone will get a reward. Suddenly, he turned around and saw a huge monster who hurried to expose his sword. The frightened youth said that this dungeon urgently needed to be blown up. At this time, Yo finally reached the source of Halzadin water, which Juan informed him. Su decided to try it on himself and dragged it into the hands of water a little. Chung said that she was not so applied. Suddenly, the young man felt unusual sensations. His body sparkled with a golden light. The she-wolf realized that in fact the owner made a new breakthrough in development. The teenager, in turn, noticed that you just need to know how to handle this water. Then he scored a full bottle and said that now it is finally done. Suddenly, they heard the screams of a weak-minded Sink, who begged for help. At the meeting, inspectors were interested in Jiang if she really wants to send people to the path of life and death in search of one girl. In response, Shan asked a counter-question. Are they really so heartless and allow her to just die? The governor of northern China urged her not to arrange a tragedy out of this. Moreover, earlier they have already sent several groups there, which disappeared without a trace. The inspector urged them to look at the pictures taken 2 days ago to change their opinion. Looking at the incredible shots, he was shocked and said that this could not be. Zhang, however, noticed that it was better for them to hurry, since the area of the path of life and death is rapidly expanding. At this time, the monster grabbed Sinhei, who asked him to help him, and stated that he would give them any amount of money. The demon, in turn, struck the soldiers, thereby literally creating a crater in the ground. Naturally, they were scared and hastened to leave the dungeons. Chao was bitterly aware that this was his end and no one could help him. However, at that moment, Yo unexpectedly decided to help him and, throwing his blade, chopped off his hand to the monster. The guy collapsed to the ground. Su wondered, was it really to such a genius as he needed help? Sini understood that he simply wanted to laugh at him and therefore returned. The young man noticed that he should think about how to escape from this demon, because he promised to blow up his cave. Suddenly, Cao lit up that this monster is actually the very legacy. He immediately threw his spiritual network into him to immobilize. But the main character noted that this grid could not hold such a thug. However, Cine was confident in the opposite because it was made by the best masters of his family. As a result, the demon easily cut off his network, but Sa managed to throw a chain on his hand. Naively assuming that this time he will not be released, the monster easily threw him aside. The young master urged Lu to stop this circus and not engage in the beating of the weak, adding that only he had so awkwardly owned a sword, urging him to make contact. Then Su nevertheless admitted that he saw a stone stela with the inscription, "Here, the soul of a warrior from the Lu clan rest." The monster seemed to fall into a stupor and stared at the teenager. He asked him not to be offended. After some time, he gained a human appearance and took the young man to a strange place for the dungeon. The guy told him that he had come for Halcyon water to cleanse the body of a girlfriend from the devilish key. Su did not expect that in the cave there was such a quiet place in the form of a gazebo with a straw roof, and asked Lu how he ended up here. The master replied, he and his wife decided to live away from civilization and went to the Imishan Mountains, but they did not know that the cave was connecting with this world. After which the warrior told him the story of how he fought with the demons, and his body sharply weakened, he also lost his wife. And subsequently, he only had a soul, and the local children haunt him with his invented heritage. Suddenly, Yo began to leave, saying that he needed to save someone and he had extremely little time left. Lu noticed that he had not been so compassionate before and suggested that someone sunk into his soul. The guy ignored him and went on, but the master suddenly asked him to draw up a company. The young master was not opposed. Meanwhile, the frightened Xinhe did not know what to do. At that moment, the body of the monster sparkled sharply, after which it disappeared completely. In his place, Su was pleased with himself and said that he liked him more. The head of the Cao family at that time asked his eldest son if Cine returned home. Qian answered negatively. The father noticed that he was not like his younger brother, who will certainly achieve success. But the young man said that Uncle Chen informed him of how his beloved son returned empty-handed. The old man refused to believe in this and asked Qian to help him get up to prepare everything and convey Cine's inheritance. Suddenly, his eldest son put a pistol's muzzle to his father's head and said that he did not agree with this. Then he lowered the trigger and killed him, saying that he would definitely take care of his younger brother. Assistant Chiang suddenly entered the room and said that from now on, he is the head of the family. The guy looked at her and immediately asked what she managed to find out. The girl said that their main problem is the name of Su Yo, and he was closely connected with Bai and operational management. He also got a legacy. The next day, Qian went to Bai, saying that he understood her as he himself took care of a sick father. The angry Yun ordered him not to approach her and immediately get out of here. The guy said that after his father's death, he became the head and hopes for further cooperation with their family. Ji menacingly replied that his family for many years praised them, and it would not be so easy to fix. The young man noticed that if they share information about the Prey spiritual canon, then their daughter will soon recover. Imbalu Juan said that he was no different from his father since he asked for the same thing. Qian, in turn, instructed them a gun and threatened that if they did not agree, then the consequences would be quite deplorable. Suddenly, the young master pushed him aside and called him not to make a showdown in the hospital. The protagonist told Jai that operational management was entrusted for him and asked him to allow him to help them. Then he provided him with evidence in the form of the signature of Inspectors Jiang and Yu. Yo extremely convincingly asked him to give the recovery of Jiran to him. Naturally, they had no other choice, and they agreed to trust the teenager. Qian found this situation rather funny, because even inspectors entrusted the Malza for this. And after some time, Sue went with a bottle of Holzeden water to the operating room to the button accordion. The guy understood that the devilish key was too deeply eaten into it and not to help with spiritual jade. The young man could not allow Jiran to die and immediately began to action. He in turn opened a bottle of water, which at the same moment freed to the will. After that, the girl's body literally declared numerous streams. At some point, the Bache began to break away from the couch and rise in a height. Sue applied the expulsion of the devilish key. Then he checked her pulse, which miraculously stabilized, and spiritual energy was restored. Suddenly, Lu appeared and said that demonic key not only affects the internal organs, and even if she wakes up, he can become a walking dead man since her consciousness is blurred and the soul is absorbed in qi. Yo noticed that in this case, the lost part of her soul must be urgently replenished. The master urged Su to use his soul to finally save the girl, but the young man said that for this, it is not necessary to use his soul and you can find another. In addition, Lu only got out of the dungeon and did not even really have time to enjoy freedom. However, he insisted that the teenager does not lose time, as this is the only way to help Jiran. The main character realized that he could not convince him, and perhaps this is really for the better. He said sadly that he and his wife helped him, so when he only arrived in the kingdom of Chu, Lu noticed that he also helped them a lot, and now the time has come to pay. After which they said goodbye forever, and the soul of the master penetrated the button accordion into the body to give her life. A moment later, the girl reached out to Su with her hand and grabbed her bathrobe. Finally, Jiran woke up and joyfully greeted the young man. He was also sincerely glad to see her in health. Meanwhile, Qian talked with the former girl Yo and noticed that she had quite primitive tastes. Xue said that he was not as simple as it might have seemed, and it is necessary to figure it out until the young man became even stronger. Cao also asked Mu as a hacker, check the guarantee sent from the address of operational management. Wang, when he found out that Fan and Su forged this letter to be Fury and began to report them. After all, if someone finds out about this, then everyone will have problems and lead to irreversible consequences. The young master took all the blame on himself and said that he forced Jin to fake documents. Fan hastened to refute this information. At that moment, Shan came and said that Baich was finally recovering and would soon recover completely. However, the inspectors wrote a whole folder of reprimands to them all. Yo suggested that Jiang had already solved this problem. Since so joyful, the inspector confirmed his guesses. Then she asked Fanya to configure them to the firewall so that no one could never hack them anymore. And for Su, she had a special task, which only such a professional as him could fulfill. Indeed, thanks to his actions, many fussed in management. Using the vulnerabilities of the medical system, they appropriated public funds, and the task was to press them. The guy the next day decided to join their circle of activity and began to say that he dreamed of devoting himself to medicine. He asked Zheng why only them at the interview. The doctor replied that her opinions were enough. It was her Shan and asked him to look at. The girl decided not to pull the time and said, since he does not have a medical license, she cannot accept it. She seemed to understand that for a young master it was a rather sore topic. The main character continued to play the role and began to ask her to go to the meeting, because for him, it is very important. Jining replied that she knew about his merits in the real world, and if he wants to become a doctor, then you need to study Western medicine. After that, the young lady asked Ayun to give her a needle. The guy dutifully gave her to the doctor. Then she began to pierce her hand. She said that any medicine was powerless against the consequences of staying on the path of life and death. Suddenly, the doctor showed a capsule and noted that only they help her reduce the moment of the disease. Suddenly, the girl collapsed unconscious on the floor. Ayun instantly rushed to her help. He tried to open Zheng's mouth to swallow the healing capsule faster. He noticed that she could not swallow her, as her neck was already ossified and covered with black crystals. and it remained, hopes only for spiritual energy. Su immediately grabbed the needle. But suddenly the doctor opened her eyes and called on the young man not to waste her spiritual energy in vain. Ayun also demanded him to move away from her because even the best doctors could not help her, and he couldn't do it all the more. However, the teenager called him to calm down and not interfere with him, after which he began to act. At the same time, the guy understood that her disease was different from the state of Jiran, although he was also subjected to the devil's qui on the trail. He immediately directed his spiritual energy to the point of convergence of all the meridians and pricked it with a needle in the head. Since the demonic key is dark energy, it was necessary to clear the path of circulation of vitality from it. Subsequently, Su found the most blockage place in her body and found monsters. The young master, in turn, eliminated them with a lightning-fast blow. The shocked Ayun said that he would demand that he be immediately expelled from the world of mountains and seas. After a couple of minutes, the main character said that Jung is safe and everything was fine. The young man looked at the doctor and really did not see a single black crystal on her body. Soon the girl came to her senses. The worried guy asked how she feels. The doctor replied that she was better. She looked at Yo and asked him the question of why he actually came here. Then Sue showed her a contract and admitted, judging by the investigation of operational management, she is related to the smuggling party. Zheng was in shock and replied that she had never been engaged in the purchase of drugs. But for some reason, it was her name that appears in the document. After all, Ayun always answered for delivery. The young lady asked the young man, did he really do it? Finally, the teenager admitted that she never took care of employees and never gave him a bonus, and he wanted to live as a normal person and not to consider a penny salary and borrow money from friends. At this moment, with the help of his skills, he neutralized him and said that he would tell the rest of the operational management. Zheng, in turn, realized her guilt and said that she disgraced all teachers. Sue hastened to reassure her and stated that she was not to blame for anything and she just got a bad employee. The doctor thanked him for everything and asked what she could be useful to him. The guy asked her to tell about what she was faced with on the path of life and death, as well as help rid the world of Ayun. In the meantime, Ki recorded Izhen's voice message and notified that soon they would definitely pull it out. Only Sun did not know if she could read him and was alive at all. However, a moment later he received a message from her. The teenager immediately jumped up. After reading it, he came to the conclusion that it was necessary to report this to the Inspector Jiang. At that moment, an earthquake unexpectedly began, and the ceiling literally sprinkled. Yun saw how Jiran went to the window, where clouds were gathering over the city. Mu called on a Baich to throw a blanket so that she would not catch a cold, and noticed that she had to wake her when she woke up. The worried girl said that this began, and they need to immediately solve the eternal spiritual canon. At this time, Qian sat in his office with the Shui and asked her what she managed to find out about Yun. Mu showed him a frame from a video surveillance camera and asked if he knew that she had in her suitcase. Chao realized that she was carrying a puzzle with her, unraveling the eternal spiritual canon, and asked the question why he brought him to the hospital. Shu said it doesn't matter. The main thing is that they had a great opportunity. The guy said that he would send his people behind the suitcase and asked why she needed this eternal spiritual canon. The girl did not answer him and asked a counter question where his brother disappeared. Qian suggested that he, as always, was engaged in nonsense, adding that it is extremely undesirable for him to get into family affairs, for his own good. Meanwhile, Zheng sent all the information about the involved people to speculate in operational management, which was reported by Yo. And they are all already escorted in a control car. The doctor also promised to ratify the medical qualifications of the SU. At the same time, she asked the young master to personally deal with the new batch of drugs in the warehouse. Subsequently, the young master went on behalf of the doctor to inspect the supply. employees were extremely warmly met by the main character and called him the savior. They asked Yo to help them because yesterday someone penetrated the warehouse and turned the top with the bottom with the bottom. Sue carefully looked around and found that there really was a complete mess everywhere. He also noticed deep scratches on the wall, as if someone wanted to instill fear in everyone. After that, the guy released employees for lunch. He himself began to restore order. Among them was a sink and a mask, which brought this bustle, but the young man ruined everything again. Suddenly, the teenager stopped him and asked him to help him because he could not cope here alone. Yo called him to separate weeds from healing herbs, and in which case, to verify everything by the directory. Cao was only interested in one moment, whether Su recognized him. The young man continued to give him instructions. Then he ordered to clean the plants of clay and only then sort. Sina dutifully agreed. While experiencing only hatred, the guy again began to drive him. What instantly infuriated the TSAO, and finally, he sent to hell of a teenager. He immediately took off the mask and said that he was not going to do anything. After which, he completely admitted that it was he scattered all the medicines and introduced himself to Sing, adding that the TSA family does not serve anyone and it is also no exception. He had long wanted to demonstrate his abilities to him and fight in an honest duel. He also pressed his acupuncture points with a lightning-fast movement. Sinny could not do anything. Then, Su seemed to control the body of the Central Administrative District and showed its source of the spiritual aura. The guy called him to hold his breath and prepare for the most interesting. A moment later, windy vortices appeared, which were controlled by Sing. He knew that incredible power was lurking in him, but such a young man did not expect to see. Suddenly, everything stopped, and the enthusiastic Cao said that he was really gifted by nature. Yo noticed that he did not know how to use skills and proposed a contract for the training and development of his skills. But Sini did not like the terms of the contract, and he refused to obey the SU. The young master still urged him to think about this proposal, but Cao was unshakable in his decision. Suddenly, Zhang called the main character and stated that she had two news. One is bad and the second is good. The teenager asked her to tell a bad one, but Sean replied that it was better to start good. They advanced in studying the path of life and death, and after an earthquake it expanded. But the bad was that this path noticed Sunya. He was shocked by such information and asked how he was involved. The inspector explained that his message Izhan provoked an earthquake, and therefore they isolated it, since it is after its signal that the path of the beginning will be rapidly expanding, adding that in a couple of days they will go in search of a Baika, and Su clearly should not miss such an event. In the meantime, Sini was thinking that this self-confident E decided to make him a boy on a run. However, at the same time, he showed him true power. Cao wanted to again try to repeat his skill, but at that moment he suddenly called out to Chen, who stated that he needed to tell the master an important thing. The old man said that his father wanted to see him as a follower and heir, but did not manage to make a will. Uncle showed a sink pistol and noticed that he clearly knew who belongs to this weapon. The guy was horrified. At this time, Yoon brought Jiran a puzzle that she herself could not solve. But whether her daughter could deal with this remained the most important issue. Mu asked Baich who they were, because that evening she mentioned them. The girl replied that they were hiding in the dark, but she does not know their true goals. Jiran said that after illness, her consciousness does not work in the usual way, and she does not understand how this happened. Mother hugged her and said that there was nothing wrong with this. The main thing is that everything is in order with her. At that moment, the nurse entered the ward and said that the package had come in the name of Bai. Baich carefully looked at the girl and was at a loss. Yoon asked what was the matter. Suddenly, the young lady said that she knew her, and it was she who attacked them that evening. Jiran instantly grabbed the sword and threatened her, demanding to tell who hired her. She thought that this was the Tisei family. However, it turned out to be just a robotic doll, as evidenced by her metal body. Suddenly the puzzle caught fire in the hands of Mu. She called out her daughter to look at her, inside which was a turtle shell, and on it the path of the path. She could foresee the trajectory of her changes. Jiran noted that this was a rather strange organism and many tried to study it, but they could not do it. The rest were seriously ill. The mother realized that Ijhan had very little chance. The girl asked her to immediately transfer the card to operational management so that they could definitely find her sister. But Yoon said that they have the opportunity to get the eternal spiritual canon to become more influential. Baika was against, because in this case, the chances of saving the sister were scanty, and it is better to convey it to operational management. Finally, Bai agreed with her, as it really was the most important thing. After all, this is a native daughter, and you cannot think about some kind of benefit at such a time. Jiran, in turn, was well aware that more time could not be lost, because Ijhan was unknown in. At that moment, a metal mouth opened a metal nurse, and a camera was inside, through which Qian watched what was happening and understood that they did not even suspect why they were so easily ready to refuse. Then he looked at his younger brother and asked if he understood what was being discussed. Cindy called him not to distract him, because he was just looking at who will go to the path of life and death tomorrow. Cao the eldest noticed that he rarely sees such enthusiastic him and advised him to go to bed before a difficult day, adding that he will come in handy on the trail and that he has the strength. The brother agreed with him and wished calmly nights, noting that he would also not hurt to relax. At this time, Siana unexpectedly wrote Shui. She said, "Sin he wants to kill him." The guy thought that, but she installed the camera. So, she does not trust him at all. He became curious why Mu doubted him. Then he sent her a message in which he stated that tomorrow he would kill both Yo and his brother. The next day, the young master went to the path of life and death. Jung informed him that she had decided the issue with a license, adding that they finally developed the medicine and thanked the young man for assistance. The main character looked around and noticed that a huge number of warriors were called up for this operation. Yeran also came, which he was madly glad to see. The girl wandered among the piloting of the fighters. Su thought about, did she really recover after the transplant of the soul of the Lu and there were no complications? In this connection, the teenager decided to check the old-fashioned way and made a fox window. The perplexed Baika asked what he was doing, and most importantly, why. The guy immediately removed his hands and replied that he was just trying to distract himself to a long road. However, Jiran noted that this fox window is used to expel unclean forces. Then she moved closer to him and asked what he saw in the window. The young man said that he saw her ruddy cheeks, and this testifies to her complete health. Then they decided to supervise their numbers, which surprisingly turned out to be exactly the same. He noticed that this was an incredible coincidence. The young lady agreed with him and suddenly blushed. Su also said that they were supposed to be distributed into groups of 3 people. At that moment, the former girlfriend of a teenager approached them and said that she had the same number. She made a surprised look, allegedly did not initially recognize him. The guy was also at a loss. The dumbfounded to the backbone asked how they knew each other. He did not know how to explain to her. The young lady introduced herself to Mu Shui and clarified that she was an ex-girlfriend Yo. Jiran also introduced herself and called her friend Su. Lee noticed that she was rather funny. At that moment, Jiang turned to all the soldiers of the aura. She asked if everyone was divided into groups. Then she introduced herself as a senior inspector of the Eastern District and thanked for participating in the operation. Then she asked to pay attention to the gorge below, which is called the Path of Life and Death. This was a rather dangerous place, and they can even die during the operation. It should also be acted quickly, since the trail got to the city, but at the same time they have a path card, which will significantly increase the chances of success. And as part of the safety increase, the management provided them with the latest equipment and medical herbs. Joe, in turn, urged not to waste time and immediately advance. Shan asked the young master to approach her for a couple of questions. The main character called on the Baich and will go without him. Zhang asked if he liked the new equipment. The young man asked the oncoming question, did she really call him to discuss clothes? In this connection, the teenager hurried to return to the ranks of the soldiers and go on a mission. But the girl said that Ijan is her favorite, and she closes her eyes on a lot. However, if someone poses a threat to her people, then she does not have the right not to react. The girls, meanwhile, had already descended into the cave and talked about how Yo delayed them again. Suddenly, Jue asked Jiran how she met Su. The young lady was surprised. Then she replied that he saved her life many times, and she was very grateful to him. She noticed that he had not changed at all since that time. A beast was hiding behind her at that moment, who, having waited the moment, suddenly jumped out and intended to attack the young girls. But an extremely timely teenager appeared and inflicted a mortal blow to the predator. The guy approached them rather pathetically, and smiling asked for forgiveness for being late for the holiday of life. Then he looked at the button accordion and promised her, be sure to return her sister home. He could not throw Shan a request from his head because it was likely that Izhan could turn into a monster, and Jiang in this case asked him to act for sure and kill the monster. Having moved on, they stumbled upon a sea of blood with strange statues in front. He looked at the map and said that they needed to get to the stairs. Noting that these stone structures did some kind of abnormal, Jiran said there are many dangerous monsters that were infected with the devilish key. Su thought that this was saying in it. Shui Mu, in turn, hastened to refute this information, having stated that they need to eat a bloody fruit on the statue to go further. The young master volunteered to go to reconnaissance and urged them in case of danger to contact the Inspector Shan. But she said that if Baich was very afraid, then she may well return home now. The angry Jiran replied that she would not abandon the team and advised her to speak less stupid things. The main character, meanwhile, was picked up to the fetus, walking around the bloody liquid. Finally taking the bloody fruit, he began to carefully examine it and could not believe that it needed to be eaten. But for the sake of saving Izhan, he was ready to endure a disgusting taste and bit the fruit. At that moment, fragments of various memories began to play in his head. The young man fell to his knees and suggested that this fruit was in the head of that girl, who became a statue. The girls drew attention to the state of Yo and rushed to his aid. However, Su urged them not to approach him, as it could be very dangerous. Suddenly, a monster rose from the sea of blood. He headed towards the guy, and he immediately inflicted a strong blow, but the teenager managed to bounce. Confident Mu, but stated that she personally dealt with this Verzila and took out her whip. At that time, he was already infected with demonic chi. His eyes turned into a crimson color and black crystals appeared on his face. Xue finally was able to tie the demon with her whip, and thereby constraining him in movements. The girl said that he was so large, but quite stupid, and hit her trap. At that moment, Gromila was struck by an arrow of a buttonhole, and the monster collapsed to the ground. Li, who was angry, did she really do this? Jiran smilingly replied that it happened by chance. However, the monster again got to their feet and rushed in their direction. The girls backed back. At this time, the SU instantly climbed onto the thug and activated its ability. The young man infected with the devil's key said that he would inevitably die. After that, a fiery ray passed through the whole body of the demon, which literally broke it. This time the monster was defeated, and the young master calmly went down to the girls. Shui noticed. They can move on, while Jiran asked the guy what with his face. Yo replied that everything was in perfect order and leaned his palm to the eye. Having stated that he just needs to eliminate the toxin, after a couple of seconds, black crystals disappeared from his face. He understood that at the moment they should not tell the truth about the bloody fruit. Su said that this fruit contains the devilish key and clogs the arteries, and Dr. Zheng picked up the disease here. The perplexing Shui noted that she did not have such information and she first hears about it. Baek, in turn, said that there is always a way out and they should move on. Yo said that there is no toxin in the fruits themselves and the tiny part of the demonic key is only in the shell. Also, you can get rid of small doses of poison using breathing exercises. In his hand, he twisted white balls, which were the fruit itself, and the red substance was a shell. Joran was surprised when she felt pure spiritual energy and realized what the fruits actually. The protagonist urged them to swallow these pills. There were just 3 of them. Baek swallowed the first capsule and grimaced instantly. She stated that they had a disgusting taste. He noticed that the vile taste, the more effective the pill, so there is nothing wrong with that. Mu also began to swallow the capsule and thought that Sue had really changed. Or she changed so much, the girl did not take her eyes off him. Suddenly, Chiang spoke to them. Dumbfounded, Jiran asked what he was doing here. Chao said that only thanks to her he ended up here, because she then solved the puzzle. Bates realized that with the help of that robotic doll, he was able to find out about it. The guy noticed that everyone would remain in the plus, since she would save her sister and he will get the eternal spiritual canon. And in order to get to the end, he will need their help. At this time, they were surrounded by dolls. Shui said that it would not get away with it so simply, but the absolutely calm Yo called her to calm down. Because he heard a characteristic sound, it was another invasion of animals. Suddenly, they were attacked by huge dragonflies, which Sue easily defeated. Then the young man said that they will soon have the opportunity to escape, and they must use it. The young master immediately opened a test tube with a dope of silicates and splashed around him. Qian realized that a teenager was really not as simple as it seemed to him initially. Thus, the monsters surrounded the TSA family, and our heroes hastened to take their feet. Going up the stairs of Jiran arose only one question that she hurried to ask Yo. When he managed to remove this powder from the control, Mu noted that she was least interested in this, adding that now is not the time to sort things out, and Izhan must be found. Suddenly, they paid attention to a pile of broken warriors on the steps. They had a very strange shape. Bates looked at them and noticed that judging by their aura, they were not people at all. The girl herself did not understand where she knew about this. The SU thought to tell her about the soul of Lu. However, it was not the best idea to say that it was a particle of another man. Suddenly, she herself asked the guy where she got someone else's consciousness in her head and whether he knew something about it. At that moment, their dialogue was interrupted by Zhue, who said that she had found something interesting. Jiran was shocked because she saw a piece of sister's clothes on the body of a warrior. Suddenly, an unknown fog began to envelop them. The protagonist reached out to the button accordion. But at this time, something incomprehensible happened. He was in the middle of a deserted area. The perplexing teenager looked around and saw the protruding hand of Shui from the ground. He instantly pulled her out and began to call Yeren, but in response stood a grave silence. Sue called on MU to see on the map where they are, but the girl said that she was not working. At that moment, a spear suddenly flew into them. The guy pushed Zhue. He himself also bounced to the side, and the weapon flew between them. The young lady did not understand what was happening and who could stay alive. The young man doubted this. And all this is actually the illusion of a haze. In other words, they were in the space of dreams. But she said that she also heard about this phenomenon and took out her whip. She immediately waved her instrument to find the source of the haze. As a result, a huge whirlwind was created right above it. Suddenly, something flashed in it. Shui realized that this was another spear and hastened to dodge him. Yi, in turn, also evaded the attack. Suddenly, the blade turned and flew up. Li urged him not to let this villain run away and activated the seal of accelerations, with the help of which the young master pushed with lightning speed and flew into the height. Seeing the unknown ghostly warrior, Sue asked him if he could let them go to save their girlfriend. However, the ghost said nothing and again fixed his spear in a teenager, which was a refusal to his request. The young man understood that since the fog was not dispersed, he would have to deal with this demon. Just a wave of the blade, Yo eliminated the ghostly guard, thereby sending it to eternal peace. Then he landed absolutely at the stairs to the Shui, which noted his incredible power. Su said that without her seal, he would not have reached this monster and would not overcome him. The girl, in turn, smiled and said that she knew him not the first day. At that moment, pouring rain suddenly began. Lee suddenly sad. She began to remember that special day and their fate. Then it also poured rain. But she asked for forgiveness from the young man and sadly said that she was obliged to tell him why she was leaving him. Yo replied that now it does not matter, and after the mission, he will go to study medicine. And she would go abroad again. Jui noticed that it was good to do what she loves and was insanely happy for him. Mu did not know if they could start all over in real life, but she really wanted this. Then she pulled herself together and began to convince herself that everything was already in the past and needed to concentrate on the salvation of Ijan. Seeing her condition, Su asked what was the matter. The young lady urged him not to be distracted and found Jiran. After all, they never found her. After returning from the space of dreams, the young man said that they really needed to hurry. At this time, Baich opened her eyes and could not understand what happened because she saw a piece of her sister's clothes and then lost consciousness. She sat in the car, but remembered that she should be on the path of life and death. Jiran suggested that these were memories in the real world. It was raining on the street. Suddenly, Ijan turned to her and asked if she was ready for a performance. The girl was in shock. Her sister noticed that she had some kind of pale complexion. After some time, she performed in the Great Hall where people admired her performance. Baich, a moment later, realized that she was at the student festival. Among the spectators, she saw her beloved Yo. Her heartbeat increased sharply. Jaren shouted his name loudly, but he seemed to have not heard her, and no one paid any attention. Suddenly, the curtain fell right in front of her. The girl was scared and backed away. She understood that these were really memories, because everything happened like that day. At that moment, Ijan called her and said that the sister played incredibly beautifully and everyone liked her performance, adding that a great success awaits her. And she also did not want to speak. Baich did not understand how long it would continue. The sister said that she was the best star at their academy. At that moment, she suddenly reincarnated in a monster in a bright purple shell. Her face frowned sharply, and she said that she was extremely glad of their meeting, after which Ijan struck her and broke a musical instrument. Thus injured her, the girl licked her bloodied finger and noticed that she tasted like her sister. Jiran was extremely sad to realize that she really turned into a monster. Then the distraught Baich again attacked her with her whip, but the young lady managed to bounce to the side. She grabbed the sword and asked why her sister behaves like that and what was happening to her. Izhan replied that this question is already too late and again rushed to the attack. Jiran continued to fight back and could not believe that Baich was crazy. Finally, she nevertheless explained the reason for her indignation in her direction, having stated that when they attacked them, she threw her to die, and from that moment, she no longer has a sister. After all, everyone always admired only her and said that Jiran is the best, not thinking about what she felt at that time. And she was only a subordinacy, and no one needed. At that moment, Ijan knocked out a sword from her and chose her whip. Baich asked her forgiveness and stated that she simply did not want to disturb her such vulnerable nature. And they can fix everything. They only need to return home and calmly discuss everything. However, the sister was not tuned to a calm conversation and urged her not to deceive, at least now. Then she threw her aside and said that she always behaved as a role model. At the same time, she was afraid of her own drives and desires. And all the time she said that she needed to become stronger. But I constantly search for protection from the side because it is actually a dummy and always cowardly. Finally, Duran agreed with her and stated that she was really afraid, but when she fell into the abyss, everything changed. After all, now she has gone through a real hell to find her and return her home. Izhan again attacked her, but Baichu caught her whip. Naturally, the younger sister did not believe her and began to attack again. The girl said that she had been afraid to hurt her since childhood and thought that she could not cope with the role of the older sister. But while she was next to her, she became calm in her soul, and with her support she was nothing to her. And that is why she found the strength to come here to find her and save her. Jiran literally began to beg Izhan to calm down and finally return home. She accused her of destroying the world of dreams and admitted that she wanted to kill her even earlier. The older sister was shocked by the younger words and could not believe what was happening. At that moment, a young master with the shui suddenly appeared and ordered her to hide immediately. Izhan instantly cut their way with her whip and demanded that they do not go into their family affairs, adding that this is the first in life their serious quarrel with her sister and they cannot interfere with them. Meanwhile, Wang told Zhang that they had a chance to find out the reason for the appearance of the path of life and death. Then he stated that Chen should be in the group with Jiran and Yo, but someone else went instead. Therefore, they started a spy. Shan immediately contacted the fan and asked when he repaired the firewall whether he came across something strange. Jin replied that he just wanted to report how someone hacked their system, but he managed to track this man. Her name is Yue but she also used many other names. It was she who launched the worm into their network. Also, one of the pseudonyms of this ghostly Musiu, but which she actually pursues the goals, is unknown.